trip to the Arizona desert takes a little getting used to for a New Yorker. I mean, face it, these aren't sights we see every day back home. But the Mets must love it out here because once again, they'll go for a sweep against the Diamondbacks. They pulled it off last summer. They'll try again this afternoon. From Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona, WB11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball as the Mets face the Arizona Diamondbacks in the finale of this 4-game series. Hi again, everyone. I'm Howie Rose in for the recuperating Gary Cohen along with Ron Darling. And so far, so good on this road trip. The Mets took 2 out of 3 in L.A. Now they have won the first 3 from an Arizona Diamondback ball club that might be scuffling. Whether the Mets have gotten them at the right time or not, who knows, because everything's clicking now for New York.
Yeah, I was in the Diamondbacks clubhouse for an hour and a half before the game today, and you could hear a pin drop. So it's not always when you play some, it's what time you play them. And I think the Diamondbacks right now are down, but the Mets are playing better than they've played all year long, doing with power, doing with defense, doing with pitching, and it's been an amazing effort on this road trip.
So the Mets have won 4 in a row. The Diamondbacks have lost 6 straight. And one of many reasons that the Mets have been as good as they've been lately is Carlos Beltran. He's healthy, he's hitting, and he's doing everything the Mets hoped for when they signed him.
Well, you know, he's hitting .480 on this trip, but most of the damage has been done here at Chase Field. Has 3 home runs, and he's done it all kinds of varieties. Line drives. He's hit breaking pitches for home runs. But the key with Beltran, he's catching everything in center field. He also has a couple of doubles. He's stealing bases. This is the guy the Mets signed when they saw him have that great run in the playoffs for Houston.
And there's a lot of help for Carlos as well. Delgado's hitting again. David Wright hasn't stopped hitting. It's balance all throughout the batting order. So much so that the only guy right now who's looking to pick things up, ironically enough, is Pedro Martinez.
Well, Pedro Martinez, 7 starts without getting a win. They need him to get one today.
You'd never know it by his demeanor, always smiling and ready to go. And we'll take a closer look at Pedro when we get back right after these messages. You never know it, but it can get downright comfortable out there. Like at about 3 o'clock in the morning when the temperature dips all the way down into the 80s. But such is life in the desert. And the Mets really don't mind it because they've had so much success out here over the last couple of years. And Pedro Martinez is the only guy who's dry right now as far as the pitchers are concerned. He's gone 7 starts in a row without a win. He'll face Russ Ortiz, who has come off the disabled list and appears to be nowhere near the pitcher he was in his best days with the San Francisco Giants and the Atlanta Braves. But Pedro has faced the Diamondbacks this year. In fact, he hooked up with Brandon Webb at Shea Stadium a little less than 2 weeks ago. That turned out to be a classic pitching matchup as Pedro worked 8 scoreless innings that night.
And he looked fine. The problem with Pedro is that he has been pitching well, but the team has lost 5 of his last 6 decisions. Against the Diamondbacks, he was almost vintage Pedro. He had a good fastball that night, was using it, coupled it with his good breaking ball. But I think the Martinez, really the only bad game he's had all year was his last start against Los Angeles. The Diamondbacks should be a team that he should handle today. They're in a bad streak right now, and I think he really wants a win, and you'll see a vintage Pedro today.
Why not? Everybody else has chipped in lately as far as the starting pitchers are concerned. 2 complete games in the last 3. El Duque on Thursday night, and of course last night, L.A. Soler. So Pedro Martinez in a somewhat different position. Everybody's trying to pick him up. But don't worry, you get the feeling Pedro will do his share too. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Toyota, a smart way to keep moving forward. By Budweiser, bright, crisp, clean, pure. This is Budweiser, this is beer. By Infiniti, using the power of design to create dynamic, beautiful automobiles. By TD Bank Financial Group, paying serious attention to what counts, you. By Dodge, you can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. And by Singular, raising the bar. Diamondbacks are on the field, Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona, where today they're going to play indoors after the roof had been open the last couple of nights. Russ Ortiz, the way he's going, could use every bit of help he can get. because the ball generally travels much better here when that roof is open. And Ron, let's take a look at the Met lineup brought to you by Nissan.
Well, we talked in the pregame about how hot Carlos Beltran is. You can see the numbers right there. But Endy Chavez, because of his play, has been moved into the second hole today with Chris Woodward down. You would think maybe they put Woodward up and get him some fastballs. The problem is, though, he'd have to take some pitches down the lineup. He'll get more pitches to hit.
Plus, look a little lower on that Russ Ortiz graphic. Left-hand batters down there at the bottom. They're hitting .344 against him. What has happened to Russ Ortiz?
Well, you can see it right here. 18 walks in 19 innings. Although he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball before last year with lots of wins, he's always walked 90 or more. Now that he doesn't throw as hard, those walks are killing him now. 18 walks in 19 innings this year.
He has spent some time on the DL this year and last, two separate things. And Pedro Martinez will go to work shortly enough and make his 13th start. But this is the defense that Ortiz will have behind him. Brought to you by TD Bank Financial Group.
Well, Gonzo in left field, Luis Gonzalez, been taken advantage of by the Mets' speedy runners Chavez and Reyes because of his weak throwing arm. Johnny Estrada having a great campaign after coming over here from the Atlanta Braves. 35 RBIs this year for Estrada.
So the Mets really enjoying themselves on this trip, especially because they've gotten off to so many good starts. 9 home runs in the 6 games, but last night 3 runs in the first. Friday night 4 runs in the first. They scored a single first inning run on Thursday. So Bob Melvin has seen his team behind each time in the first inning before they've ever come to bat. And Jose Reyes, celebrating his 23rd birthday today, will lead off against Ortiz. So the final game the Mets will play in Phoenix this year is underway. And Ortiz throws strike 1.
You know, also the Diamondbacks are 8 and 19 when the opponent scores first. So not a team that comes back very well.
0-1 by Ortiz, and Reyes just able to hold up on the curveball.
Ortiz has always been one of those guys that throws a cutter and a slider and always has pitched one way, never giving in to the hitter. Problem is now some of those numbers on his fastball have dropped in miles per hour, and he hasn't been able to make that transformation like Glavine, like Martinez.
Good curveball there. It's 1-2.
Good curveball here by Russ Ortiz. You can see he kind of short arms it. You can see it come right out of his glove early.
2-2. Reyes on a 7-game hitting streak now. That's about what he's doing, just getting a hit a night. No real huge games the last few for Jose, but he's run the count full. So good speed on deck as well as in the batter's box. Ball 4. And so Reyes, who's doing more and more of that, draws his 24th walk of the year. As Endy Chavez comes up, 24 walks for Reyes. He walked only 27 times all of last season. And isn't that the way things have gone for Ortiz? So I'll see if the Mets are aggressive early here. And Ortiz thinking right along.
Well, Ortiz has a couple of different moves. He has a better move than that, of course. That was a courtesy move. But he also has a slide step, so occasionally he will go quickly to the plate.
And it certainly wouldn't surprise anyone to see Reyes running here. 25 stolen bases to lead the league. See if the Diamondbacks pitch out early. Nope. And the fastball right down the middle. Chavez got a fastball, but took it to give Reyes a chance, and Jose wasn't running. Here's Hoover behind him in the stolen base chase. Mets will see the Reds and Felipe Lopez on the next homestand. Quick throw, and Reyes just gets back.
Well, he was leaning, wasn't ready for that quick toss. We talked about Ortiz has two different moves. This is the quick one. Almost caught Reyes napping.
So Reyes studying Ortiz. He's running. The pitch, a ball, and a stolen base. Number 26 for Reyes.
Well, again, just the Mets seem to be having their way here with the Diamondbacks. When they want to run, they run, and they're safe. When they want to hit a home run, they hit a home run. When they want to hit and run, they hit and run. They're doing whatever they want to do against the Diamondbacks in this series so far.
Reyes now tied with Corey Patterson of the Orioles for the major league lead. And here's that wrist guard he wears. We told you about that a couple of nights ago. Cushion the blow. Breaking ball in the dirt, 2-1.
You know, watch Ortiz's body language. Body language for a pitcher will tell you a lot about a pitcher. Look into a pitcher's eyes. Eyes can't lie in a pitcher. You'll see despair at times when a pitcher is struggling. You'll see wonderment, like, how am I going to get out of this? Watch his body language throughout this first inning and see what you get.
You see anything?
I just, you know, I just see. I remember when he was a young kid pitching in San Francisco, and he worked quickly and very snappy in the way he worked, threw strikes. Just looks like a guy who's just trying to feel for it out there, kind of trying to experiment, trying to get something to work.
Well, the numbers are a pretty good indication, Ron. You go back to May 24th of last year. 1 win, 13 losses, and a 7.84 earned run average.
Well, Keith Hernandez has talked about it many times, right? How it's a game of confidence, and he's at the low point right now.
2-1 to Chavez. Good bunt. Ortiz smothers it, but has no play. A base hit for Chavez, and the Mets have runners at the corners with no outs.
If they want to bunt for a base hit, they'll bunt for a base hit. Great job by Chavez, because even if this play is made, he gets Reyes to third with less than 2 outs. Ortiz should have let this ball go, give Orlando Hudson a chance to make the play. There's always this adage for a pitcher. If there's a bunt to your left side and you chase it, if you can't get it on the run, you let it go, because diving's not going to do anything. And it cost me a whole September once by diving.
And I remember that. Was it Vince Coleman?
Vince Coleman had a no-hitter, bunted down the first base side. I dove and tried to make the play, and a broken thumb and history.
Well, Beltran in a good spot here with first and third, nobody out. You know how hot Carlos has been. Chavez back. Now, as aggressive as the Mets are, and as hot as Beltran's been, would you be reluctant to run Chavez here?
I keep Chavez here for a couple of reasons. One, like you said, how hot Beltran's been. Plus, he keeps the hole open.
Hole on the right side with a left-hand batter, as you see Jackson holding against Chavez. And Ortiz trying to nab somebody napping, and nothing's going on. So the shortstop counsel, you see him cheating over towards the bag there. Try and give themselves a chance on a ball hit up the middle. The outfield also deep and around towards right. It's Reyes at third with Chavez at first. 0-1 to Beltran. Carlos also a .348 hitter with men in scoring position. 10th of the league in homers and RBIs with Delgado waiting aboard. The 0-1 to Beltran.
You know, Howie, there's some good middle of the lineups all through baseball, but I think Beltran, Delgado, and Wright don't have to take a backseat to anyone.
They've been showing why this series. Ortiz didn't like the first one. Now he's got one he likes from Estrada. And the 1-1 to the right side. At least a run will score. Hudson bobbles and everybody's safe. Well, isn't that the way things have gone this weekend? Beltran should get an RBI there. Hudson will probably get an error, and the Mets have a 1-0 lead. Couple of divots taken up already. One on the bunt by Ortiz, and now this one.
Well, Beltran trying to hit that hole, but that ball not hit hard enough. But Orlando Hudson seemed to try to rush this play. Sometimes when you're that deep on the grass, it's unnatural by the time the ball gets to you. And Hudson not able to come up with the play.
So an error on Hudson. Give Beltran a run batted in, his 46th. And here's Delgado. Still nobody out, and the Mets have done it again. Another first inning run. Done that each game of this series. Curve for a strike.
Don't be surprised either. Well, Delgado does not like that call. He thought that curveball was high. Got a lot of speed on the bases. You have Chad Tracy playing way off the line at third base. Long way for him to go to try to get the third and cover. Here's the curveball. Delgado sees that as outside and high, both.
So the 0-1. That's hit to right. Green in good position to throw, but Chavez trying it, and he's in there. So good base running by Chavez. Ball was not hit all that deep. Now he's at third with one out.
Well, I just like the New York Mets style, just being very aggressive. This is a ball you usually wouldn't tag up on. Green's known to have a good arm, but Chavez just pushes you off. Like, kind of got back late, made his decision up, and look at that great speed. No chance for Green.
It seems the Mets are just trying to force the issue no matter what it is, either by bunting or running, taking a base as they have on Gonzalez this series, or in this case just making the Diamondbacks handle the ball.
They can smell the Diamondbacks are down. They're just trying to push the envelope against this team.
Right on a 5-game hitting streak. 1-0. David third in the league in batting with that .339 mark. 7th in on base percentage. 6th with runners in scoring position. And here we are. What is it, Ronnie? It's June 10th. And you would certainly have to say David Wright is a viable MVP candidate right now. Admittedly early. Very, very early.
Is it earlier than, as you can see, the balance of his outfield hits? Just that's what makes him so dangerous, that he has power to all fields. You know, opening day at Shea, they were yelling MVP. So the fans knew before we knew.
Not even halfway home, but boy, has David had a half year. 2-1.
Well, you got a pitch to hit here, just a little behind this fastball. That is the happy area for Wright. Maybe a little big swing there. We haven't seen that from him. Trying to load up on that 2-0 count.
Well, it is a day game after a night game, and fatigue could be a factor in some cases.
When you're 23, I don't think so. Me, yes. Dying, no.
Heck, you got 4 days to cool off after every performance.
That's right.
You had it easy. 2-2 now to Wright. Chris Woodward, who hasn't played much, waiting on deck, getting the start today at second. Two strikes, not a situation that bothers David Wright. For Russ Ortiz, this is only his 6th start. He was on the DL with a right calf strain from late April until last week. 2-2 pitch. Ball 3. Estrada's throw behind the runner, but back easily is Beltran. I might as well send Carlos 3-2. Chavez at third and Beltran at first. See if Beltran's running with one out on this payoff pitch. Yep, he's going. Strike 3. And Hudson a little late getting over. So it's a stolen base for Beltran, but David Wright down on strikes. And now there are 2 men away.
Boy, Wright had a couple of pitches to hit, just swung right through him. Beltran with enough speed, though. Not a good throw by Estrada. And you said that Orlando Hudson was late. He was trying to hold his position as long as he could in case Wright made contact.
So 2 away. And the batter now, Woodward. Oh, and 1 to Woody, making his 8th start at second base and his 13th overall. But he's performed well when he has been in there, and he's got 2 in scoring position here. Slice down the right field line, 0-2. Woodward, a .333 hitter with men in scoring position, although that's only 15 at bats. So the Mets with 1 in here in the first, and the 0-2 to Woodward. Little roller, and that's a fair ball, and that'll get 2 more in. Chavez scores, Beltran scores, Woodward to second, 3-0 New York. This inning has been a microcosm of this series, hasn't it?
Well, here's a guy who hasn't gotten many starts. His 8th start. Gets in there, a good pitch from Ortiz, trying to foul it off. What does that happen? Stays inside the line for a 2-run double. And here comes Beltran. Those long strides. He's got to hustle, though. See? He's hustling to the plate. The reason being, the throw went to second on Woodward. Never knew if Woodward was going to be safe or not. Good play by Beltran.
So here's Castro.
Here goes Woodward. Makes up his mind there to go for 2. Although he almost went past the bag. Should have slid here. See how the foot almost went past the bag.
This is the 5th time in the 7 games on this trip the Mets have scored multiple runs in the first inning. Crooked numbers.
Crooked numbers. We love them.
So 0-2 to Castro. And with all of this success, there's still time to teach on the bench.
Well, I'll tell you, as a starting pitcher, when you get 3 runs in the first on the road, what a gift.
So Woody in scoring position. He was behind 2 strikes. So is Castro. And Ortiz got that one on the fly. So Pedro, the latest Mets pitcher to tuck some runs in his pocket as he gets set to go to work. Well, you know, it's tough to get a taxi out here in Phoenix, but there are alternate means of transportation. Wonder how much they charge for that. Told you it's different out here. I'm waiting for Yosemite Sam to come into the picture. But instead it's Pedro. And he just wants a win. Now, most of the last 7 starts that he's made, he's pitched very well. This is the lineup that he'll face, brought to you by Nissan and your local Nissan dealers.
Well, Craig Counsell with that good average against Martinez. Counsell swinging the bat a little better. He went through that 0 for 21 string when the Mets came into town. Estrada catching. Chad Tracy has been very impressive in that 4-hole.
So still some very impressive numbers on Pedro. His 181 average against is the lowest in the major leagues. He throws strike 1 to Counsell. Martinez is 8th in the league in earned run average, 2nd in strikeouts. Back up the middle, and Counsell's aboard. The Diamondbacks get the leadoff man on.
Well, change up here from Pedro on the outside part. Gets it off the end of the bat, and Pedro, whoop, little Olay, thank God. Don't put that right hand out there. It's, you know, it's a bad thing. You know you're not supposed to do it, but it's hard not to do it. You just always want to make a play.
Mets defensively brought to you by TD Bank Financial Group.
Ramon Castro behind the plate. When he catches Pedro Martinez, their ERA is 2.00. Woodward at second.
So here's DeVannon. 1-0. Devannon, a switch hitter, giving Bob Melvin another left-hand bat against Pedro this afternoon rather than the right-handed Brian Burns, or Eric Burns, pardon me. Melvin realizes that Pedro has given up 11 home runs in 80 innings. That's a lot for Pedro, and 8 of them have been to left-hand batters. Fastball, 2-0.
Well, that's the only alarming number you can look at Pedro. Everything else is Pedro-like.
Now,
strikeouts are up.
What have you seen that might be an explanation?
Well, one of the things he's learned this year, he has this little cutter that he throws outside to left-handers. That's it right there. Thank you, Pedro, for being right on cue. That little cutter he throws outside the left-handed hitters that he gets a strike on. He'll throw it when he's behind in the count because they'll take it, starts in the outside part, and comes over the outside corner. Problem is, occasionally he centers that pitch, and that's a home run pitch. It's like a little tiny nothing slider.
And again, 2-2.
Yeah, 2/3 of his runs allowed have been by way of the home run. But when he's in that position, those last 2 pitches on that outside part down, he's not going to get hurt there.
Counsell back in.
Pedro is a master at holding runners on. He'll hold the ball for a long time. He'll throw over. He'll step off. He'll quick pitch. He changes it up all the time. That's what makes it difficult on runners. They're trying to time you.
Full count. Well, pitch count was an issue in Pedro's last start in Los Angeles. He averaged just about 21 pitches per inning, 104 pitches in 5 innings. And that was the highest in any game, highest average pitches per inning since he joined the Mets. When he faced Arizona at Shea, he threw 106 pitches in 8 innings. Stark contrast. Counsell runs. Devannon puts it in the air. Tough play. Miller's still coming. And he gets there. So 1 away.
Well, the infield is playing a double play depth. Reyes usually makes that play, but he could not. He had to cover second. See, Reyes had to cover second. That means that's Miller's ball now. And with that great speed, he's able to recover and make that play. Reyes usually has that in his back pocket. That's an easy play, but not on that situation.
It's always an adjustment, too, for the left fielder, isn't it? Who's new, getting used to a shortstop who's got a lot of range to know how aggressively he can pursue a ball under ordinary circumstances.
That, and also we saw in the first night, Millage and Chavez had trouble with this roof closed, seeing the fly balls.
And that's an issue here today, too, as Gonzalez takes strike 1. All part of the learning curve for a kid who hasn't yet spent 2 full weeks in the major leagues. It's tough sometimes to find it through all those beams. 0-1 to Gonzalez up high.
See, the problem is that all the beams look alike. What happens is when you have an open sky, you can play it, the ball, you can see it off a certain cloud or another cloud formation or in between. You can really see the ball a lot better than you can when everything is the same.
Got a piece of Castro. It's 1-2.
Like Howie, they'll say, like, you know, outfielders will always say when it's an open roof stadium, they'll say it's really hard to see the ball today because it's a high sky, meaning there's no clouds in the sky, so it's hard to differentiate the ball from the sky. Same thing here, just different because it's indoors.
Yeah, and the reason we're indoors today is that the temperature's in triple digits. Slice the other way.
It was 111 yesterday when I came to the ballpark, so.
Just the way we like it. 111 degrees. Actually, right now, Doris, our stage manager, tells us things have really cooled down to 104 degrees outside. It's 78 in here. Thought it was comfortable. Gonzalez, base hit. Counsell the third. Beltran challenging. Counsell's in there. both hits for the Diamondbacks right through the originator.
Well, this is that little cutter away. And Pedro, because of his style of pitching, he really contorts his body to throw as hard as he does. He never gets in a good fielding position, and this ball through the wickets. Well, Counsell really challenging Beltran here, down 3-0, trying to play some aggressive baseball, maybe trying to shake his team alive.
Gonzalez held on at first, and now Chad Tracy, the power-hitting third baseman who has 10 home runs. He had 3 hits a couple of nights ago. Wright giving chase beyond his reach, so it's 0-1. Tracy, though, is just 4 for his last 24. But he's hit the Mets well. Infield will look for 2. And now it's 0-2.
Mike Aldrete, the hitting instructor for the Arizona Diamondbacks, had Chad Tracy in rookie ball. And he remembers the farm director came over to him. There's Mike. Farm director came over to him and said, you know, Chad Tracy, we don't really think he's much of a prospect. And he said, are you kidding me? This is a number 3 hitter for me this year in rookie ball. He'll be a number 3 hitter up in the big league someday, and he was right.
Shallow right. Chavez lines it up. Here comes Counsell. Throw to the plate, and Counsell is out. Andy Chavez throws out Craig Counsell, and Ramon Castro made sure that Counsell could not get in.
Andy Chavez is 7 assists this year.
He helps you in a bundle of different ways. But don't forget the work of Castro. That keeps it 3-0 after 1. There are plenty of reasons why Willie Randolph loves Andy Chavez.
And one of the reasons he loves him is because of his outfield play. Short hopped it. Ramon Castro comes up with it, blocks the plate. Craig Counsell nowhere to go.
So 3-0 New York, and it's on to the second, and here's Millage. And he gets hit. And the Mets instantly have a base runner.
Well, if you want to practice this at home, just run as hard as you can and slide into your foundation. Because that's sort of what it's like. Castro just kind of sits on him. You know who used to block the plate like that? Mike Scioscia, the manager of the Angels. When he played with the Dodgers, you were taught not to slide into him because he would catch it and just sit right on top of you. Counsell trying to feel for it, but Andy Chavez just stepping in for Cliff Floyd with that bad angle. Bad ankle, please. Great job he's done.
So now Martinez will try and bunt Millage up. 1 ball, no strikes. It was the first batter that Ortiz has hit this year. Pedro looking down to Maniacta. Millage, very good speed at first base. One and one. That's Pedro trying to do what he's done 4 other times. The way things are going right now, you just want the Diamondbacks to handle the baseball.
Yeah.
Force him to throw it. Force him to handle it. Martinez does that. And Jackson to Hudson. 3-4 on a perfectly executed sacrifice. Let's visit now with Chris Cotter. Chris.
Hey, thanks, Howie. And as Jose Reyes comes to the plate, he is celebrating his 23rd birthday today. So happy birthday to Jose. And I thought it would be a good time to take a Mets retrospective now. On the day that Jose Reyes was born, June 11th, 1983, the Mets were 20-34. That's the worst record in the National League. They were fully 9.5 games behind the Cardinals. Leading the team in hitting was Danny Heap at 297. Tom Seaver was getting no run support with a 2.71 ERA, but he was 3-5 on the year. And Darryl Strawberry was 3 home runs into his Mets career.
And Ron Darling was blowing away the International League at Tidewater, right? This date in '83.
I think I did get the ERA title that year. I was waiting for them to call me up. They were taking forever. Come on, I'm ready to go.
Well, you got up late in September.
Yeah, I played in September.
1-0 to Reyes, and now the count even.
Well, good changeup. See that grip coming out of his hand? Russ Ortiz took all the speed off. Reyes way out in front.
Millage leading. Orlando Hudson tosses out Reyes, and now Millage is at third for Chavez with 2 men away. The first run of the game is brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'.
Well, Hudson not able to come up with that play. Hudson, who's a sure-handed second baseman, but erred on that play.
Gold Glove winner in the American League with Toronto. So if he's into the act, you know things are really in free fall. And now Chavez. 1-0 to Endy. You know, Reno was talking about Willie liking so many things about Chavez, and one of the things he is impressed with is how he's made the adjustment to hitting with 2 strikes. He's really shortened his swing because he generally feels that for a little guy he has too big a swing. Checked his swing there. And Tracy with a wide throw, but Jackson applies the tag, and that retires the side. So the Mets leave one. It remains 3-0 New York. Oh, that's a real comfortable look for 106 degrees, huh? That's outside. 1-0 to Connor Jackson starting the bottom of the second inning. Jackson held hitless last night. Really is startling if you've never been out west. The first time you travel, and it doesn't have to be to Phoenix or California. First time I ever came west was to Las Vegas, and I just could not get over the majestic beauty of the mountains in the background and things that you just never see in New York.
Yeah. Open spaces.
They do have razor blades here, though.
I think that's the guy with the burro. He's come inside now. Yeah.
Sure, he gets to cool off, but what about the mule? Jackson pops it up. Reyes puts it away. 1 out. So 23 years old today, and already Jose Reyes in his 4th big league season. Hey, Mets fans, if you're always traveling and missing games, you can watch them live online whenever you're away from New York. Exclusively from MLB.tv. Mets.com has more live games than anyone else. Mets.com, where baseball is always on. 1-0 to Sean Green.
Talking about Reyes, I was talking to some of the Diamondback officials. They said that they've never spent as much time on a 249 hitter as they do on Jose Reyes. When they talk about their defensive meetings and their pitchers meetings, Jose Reyes, they spend 15 minutes on him, and they said there's no other 249 hitter in the league that they spend that much time on because of all the weapons he has.
With those weapons, once he gets them all properly aligned, he'll hit more than 249. Willie even mentioned the other day, as the count goes to 2-2, he thinks Jose eventually could hit close to 300.
Well, I think he can also. And listen, he's emerging. He's walking more than he's ever walked. Those are things that they wanted him to improve on, and he's doing them. So it's obvious that he's working hard on it. He's trying to change himself into a complete player. He's listening to his coaching staff like Sandy Alomar Jr.
Still 3-2.
He's one of the most exciting players in baseball. When he's got it all working, he has one of those magical games where he has a triple, a single, a walk, 3 stolen bases. He's just great to watch.
And the foul tip into the glove of Castro. Strike 3. First strikeout for Pedro.
Pedro went upstairs on green. Even now, he can sometimes add a little, and that's that cutter again that he's throwing on that outside part. Got it up in the strike zone, though. Might have got away with the pitch.
Were you able to do what he did in terms of keeping something in reserve for 4 or 5 innings down the road?
I wasn't able to do what he does because I never had the kind of life that he has. He has, when he wants to throw hard, his ball will rise in the strike zone, which is a strikeout pitch. Mine used to sink, so I could throw it harder, but it would just sink more. So it wasn't a strikeout pitch, but it was a contact pitch. So occasionally I could add a little, but it wouldn't help me as much as it would help him as far as the strikeouts.
He could be throwing 84, 85, 86 for 6 innings, and suddenly with men on base in a big spot on the 7th, bang, he's in the 90s. 0-2 to Estrada, got to 90 there. Johnny Estrada, former Philly, former Brave, switch hitter, hitting well here in Arizona. .311 average, 4 homers, 35 runs batted in. Hits about the same from both sides. 1-2.
Well, Howie, I think Pedro learned a big lesson in that playoff series against the Cleveland Indians. When he did not feel right and he had something hurting, he was throwing 84 miles an hour and pitched 6 innings of no-hit relief.
Woodward gobbles it up, waits for Delgado, and that retires the side. So Diamondbacks go in order, and it's on to the 3rd, 3-0 Mets. The Mets' upcoming schedule is brought to you by Air Canada. Philadelphia for 3 in Philadelphia, and then the Orioles come to Shea. Some interleague games, Ronnie.
Well, I'll tell you, those games against the Phillies at Citizen Bank Park are going to be lots of fun.
5-game lead, now 5.5, with the Mets winning last night after the Phillies won yesterday afternoon. Mets in front. And a strike to Carlos Beltran, and Ron and Keith will be in the booth for the games in Philadelphia. You're laughing already. 1-1.
No, the last time we were there, though, it was Steve Traxel's complete game effort.
Yeah, all 4 innings of it. Right. Thanks to rain.
Aaron Rowan's catch, the highlight of that game.
Curveball 2-1. How about that? They were all set. The padding had arrived, and it was the last game of the homestand, and the next day they were going to put that padding on the area where Rowan eventually wound up smashing his face.
Talk about Murphy's Law, right?
2-1 to Carlos, and the count even. Well, this is an expansive outfield with a variety of different places to run into.
And different angles. You really have to know what you're doing out there. That mesh in right center field.
Still 2-2. That's the deepest part of the park. That's all padded. Padding everywhere at the top of the fence also. I don't think, maybe just to the right above that sign, right at the lip, there might be a little bit of exposed concrete. That would hurt. Full count. Nowadays they've got barriers up in front of all the dugouts. What do they call that? The Don Zimmer rule?
Don Zimmer rule, or
common sense.
We are in Arizona as Carlos Beltran strikes out. It's more like the Matt Keogh rule. I don't know if you remember that, but here in Arizona, Matt Keogh was in the dugout of the San Francisco Giants who play in Scottsdale, and he caught a foul ball and it hit him right in the head. And after that, they started putting padding in front of the dugouts. So the guys now, you have a beautiful dugout where you can sit in, but you can't see because of the padding, so you have to stand up.
And yet those innovations are only within the last half dozen to 10 years, varying from park to park. 0-1 on Delgado. 1-1. You saw that shift against Delgado again. So you've got a lone infielder on the left side in the shortstop position. That's the third baseman, Chad Tracy. Hudson is the second baseman, who's about 25 feet out onto the grass. Delgado's hit there quite a bit lately. This one a little looper, so he placed it perfectly. Said, all right, enough of the ground balls. And he hit a little 9-iron in front of Sean Green.
Well, it's a good pitch by Ortiz. He gets this inside, cutting inside, but Carlos Delgado, I don't think there's anyone in baseball who's quicker inside than Carlos. And in fact, that's what Carlos tries to work on with Rick down. And at this point in his career, Carlos is really his own hitting coach, as he tries to stay inside the ball. What I mean by that is trying to keep his hands inside the ball, because his hands are so quick, he'll always be able to get to that inside pitch. Problem is when he starts thinking inside, that's when he starts rolling it over.
So now he's a one-out base runner, and David Wright, who struck out his first time. Green looking through the beams. 2 away. So Wright 0 for 2. And now Woodward, who placed a ground ball perfectly inside the first base bag his first time up, to deliver 2 runs. Ball 1.
You know, Chris Woodward meant a lot more to this team when they weren't as strong as they are now. It's hard to find playing time, but I mean, he's still invaluable. If someone goes down for a couple of days, he can come in and start and play any of a number of positions.
1-1 to Woodward.
But we saw in the first night, Claudio Vargas had that long arm technique. Well, Ortiz is just different. He takes the ball straight out and straight up. See how he cups it? And he kind of cocks it and then throws it.
That used to be considered cupping, a recipe for injury, right?
Yeah, because what you're doing is that you're really putting a lot of strain on your elbow when you do that.
I remember Whitey Herzog used to think that David Cone was a cupper, and this is early when David came to the Mets, thinking that's why he wouldn't be a successful pitcher.
Yeah, Ortiz cups high, all right, above his ear. David used to cup low behind his back, and only way you can do that is if you're a very strong person. Russ Ortiz, very strong, you know, built like a bull almost.
And Woodward goes up the middle. Delgado will pull into second with 2 men away, and Castro coming up.
And David Cone, people always think of David Cone as we go to another hit by Chris Woodward, getting his chance to play, and like he always does, makes the most of it. Right back through the originator, as you say, Howie. But David Cone, not a big guy, 6 feet tall, didn't weigh that much, 175, 180 pounds, but very, very strong. David used to be religious with his workouts for his arm exercises, and it really paid off.
Well, here's Castro now, who showed his strength in another way earlier in this game. 0-1. It was Ramon who blocked the plate effectively on Craig Counsell. Counsell tried to score on a fly ball out in the first inning. At the plate, Ramon hit a soft liner into the glove of Castro. Or into the glove of Ortiz, I should say. And Delgado back to second.
Why would you ever think of doing that? Carlos Delgado is at second base. Where is he going? Nowhere. That just tells me that as a pitcher, Ortiz is not zoned in on what he should be doing, and that's taking care of the batter.
1-1 to Castro.
You know what I mean, Howie? If you're on the mound and you're thinking properly, you step off the mound, you're thinking, okay, I got Delgado at second base. He's not running. I don't have to worry about him. You just zone in on Castro and make my pitches. But to fake a throw to second means that you're not concentrating on that.
Wasted energy?
Yeah, it's
mental and physical. Now the 1-1. Ball 2.
And the end result is you get into a 2-1 count to a cripple hitter like Ramon Castro, who is looking for that fastball over the plate in the 2-0, 2-1, 3-1 count.
Cripple hitter meaning that you'll hit a pitcher's mistake, right?
No, cripple hitter in the sense that he needs to get in that kind of count where he knows what he's going to get, what speed he's going to get it, and Ramon Castro in these situations can sometimes turn on the power.
And I was going to talk about it with Johnny Estrada.
It's Brian Price, the pitching coach, and he looks lost also for an explanation for Ortiz, who as recently as 2 years ago won 21 games for the Atlanta Braves.
Diamondbacks signed him as a free agent and thought they'd hit the jackpot.
2 years with the Braves, he won 36 ball games.
Two-one pitch, ball 3. Well, it's pretty typical. He's thrown 56 pitches, not yet out of the 3rd inning. There have been runners on base each of the 3. He doesn't look anything like in his earlier successful years with the Giants and the Braves. Ball 4. It's the 2nd walk that Ortiz has allowed. He's also hit a batter. And now Lasting's Millage will hit with the bases loaded. Well, with 2 out and Ortiz struggling and that pitch count rising and the pitching coach getting agitated, is Millage just thinking, I'm going to get a first pitch fastball here and crush it?
I think that's the kind of hitter he is, very aggressive.
So he threw him a breaking ball because Ortiz probably thinking the same way. Millage looking for a first pitch fastball.
You hate to say this, but it's obvious. Ortiz now is watching him. He's pitching afraid. And you pitch afraid, you're going to get in trouble, big trouble.
1-0, 2-0.
You know what I mean by that, Howard. When you're pitching afraid, you're afraid of contact. You're afraid of throwing a strike. You're afraid of what could happen instead of the other way around. My stuff is as good as Lasting's Millage. Let me just throw a strike and beat him. I got 8 guys behind me. Someone can make a play.
Well, now you would think he pretty much has to get a fastball, right?
He's got to be looking for that cutter that he's going to throw away. Good time for Millage to try to hit something the other way. There's that cutter away.
So he hit the outside corner with it, and it's 2-1.
There's Estrada. What does he want on this 2-1 count? We're given the signs, but the last was location. That means another cutter away.
Millage behind it.
And what I mean by that, you saw all those signs. How do I know it's a cutter away? Because he gave direction. You never give direction on a curveball or a changeup. You just call the pitch. But he went through all those signs and he touched his inside of his right leg. That means he wants something away. The only time you ever call for something in direction is a fastball.
A little more flexibility now on 2-2. So now with the count full, the carousel's going to spin. Delgado from 3rd, Woodward from 2nd, Castro from 1st will all have the automatic start. There they go. And it's in there. He threw him a 3-2 breaking ball and froze Millage to leave the bases loaded. 2 hits, 3 left. And it's still 3-0 New York. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Glad you're with us on the WB this Sunday afternoon as the Mets and the Diamondbacks complete a 4-game series. Mets have won the first 3. Gary Cohen will be back late next week when the Mets return home. And I believe Gary's scorecard is impeccable right now. Every pitch, every inning has been scored and counted. I'm sure of it. 1-0 to Orlando Hudson. One ball, one strike.
Gary's going to get the reputation like Roger Clemens. He only really does his job at home. Just comes in and does the home games.
Well, listen, it's good to be in that position, huh?
Exactly. Without the private plane.
1-2 now to Orlando Hudson.
He's got to be chomping at the bit, though, don't you think?
You know what? I spoke to him a couple of days ago, and he was in chomping mode. Little roller still 1-2. Father and son need a little extra room to get acquainted. They've got it. Ooh, that's a private conversation going on up there.
Euchre seats.
2-2 now to Hudson. He'll be followed by Ortiz and Counsell. Delgado bobbles, and Pedro helps him out. One away.
Well, what do? When the ball's hit to the right side, you bust over there. Pedro thought Delgado was going to have it at first, but makes it nice. You see how Pedro's running through there. I think that's a good thing as when you're covering first. A lot of guys sprint there and they're all agitated. Just take a nice, really good run over there, but stay under control in case you get a bad throw.
There's Ortiz taking a strike.
Mel Stottlemyre used to always say, expect a bad throw every single time. That way, the good throws are easy. They're easy to make.
Delgado hoping for a play, but it's on the dugout roof.
Well, Russ Ortiz, one of the best hitting pitchers. 6 home runs in his career.
And the 0-2 from Pedro outside. That fastball getting up to 89. Two and two.
You know, as mentioned before, I didn't finish my thought. When Pedro pitched those 6 innings of no-hit relief and won that division series for the Red Sox, he didn't throw any more than 84, 85 miles an hour. And I think it taught him something that night, that it doesn't matter what stuff he has enough selection of pitches that he can win with anything. And that's helped him now later on in his career.
Couple of weeks, Pedro and the Mets will be going to Boston as the Mets have an interleague series at Fenway Park against the Red Sox. Think he'll have a few people wanting to say hi to him? That locker room is small enough as is.
It is, isn't it? He's going to get a great reaction there. What a fan favorite he was as a player.
And a full count now to Ortiz.
And if you notice from the Dodger game, really had a lack of command. I mean, I'm talking about Pedro command, not any regular pitcher's command. Pedro command. And in the first few innings here, he's missed with some pitches also. That's why he's gone deep in these counts.
So the payoff pitch to Ortiz down the line. Trouble if it's fair, and it is a foul ball, and not by much.
Just a foot or so foul. That gentleman there in that jersey has been here all 4 nights, sitting right below us.
Seen that fellow around the hotel?
Yes, I think that's one of Charlie Samuels, the equipment manager's friends.
So again, a payoff pitch to Ortiz, and he hangs in. And a Brooklyn Dodger fan, remembering the rivalry with the guys from the Bronx. Well, Ortiz works out a walk. And give Ortiz credit, too, because he fouled off some pitches there against Pedro after Pedro got ahead of him. Now Craig Counsell. Well, as much as Ortiz has had to struggle on the mound, he's been out there for some tedious innings. In some ways, assuming the Mets get out of this inning, does it help the Mets to keep Ortiz out there on the bases?
I always thought of it this way. If you're a starting pitcher, relievers may be a little different. If you're a starting pitcher and you can't run the bases, then you probably aren't doing enough running. You know, I think that's you know, if it was 110 degrees out, I think yes, maybe it would be, but should not hamper him at all.
That's going to be a base hit. Second for Counsell. And Ortiz in at second. Pedro was behind 1-0, and that's been happening a lot more. Pedro falling behind in the count.
Yeah, I think you're right. He jams Counsell here, but you know, he's just missing his spots. Not by a lot, but just by enough to be giving up these hits. When he walks the pitcher, Pedro walks the pitcher, it's obvious that he does not have that kind of control that he usually brings out there to the mound. He hasn't had it for a game and a half now. The best way to get out of it, though, is got to pitch out of it and keep trying to work on it, trying to tinker while you're trying to get outs.
Devannon hit a fly ball to left his first time. He goes that way again. Right, hoping for space, and he pulled up at the last second. I think David was a little farther from the rail there than he realized.
Well, I think he was a little farther from the rail. He had a long way to go, but also I think that once he looks up again, I think he lost it. You look up 2-3 times to try to find it. I think in that last time he kind of lost sight where that ball was.
So just a strike to Devannon. Pedro working awfully hard here. He's going to throw his 50th pitch of the game. Remember, he has only one out in the third inning here. Fastball 0-2.
That was a nice fastball, 92 miles an hour. Mechanics were perfect on this. Stayed closed, and then that unwinding kind of contortion action that Martinez has. That's the best fastball he's probably thrown this year.
And the 0-2. Up and away. Threw that one over 90 as well. This is what we talked about before. Pedro in certain spots where he realizes he's got to muscle up. All of a sudden he'll find 4 or 5 more miles per hour.
Well, probably that was for show. That second one out of the strike zone to get to the changeup. That's a pitch he can get a double play on.
2-2.
Tim Welke so far has had a very tight strike zone. And he's known for having a tight strike zone, Tim Welke. This ball looks like a pretty good pitch. Devannon already has taken a couple pitches really close with 2 strikes.
Well, it was 0-2, and now it's full. Rick Peterson has watched Pedro labor more over his last couple of starts than he's probably seen in Pedro's 2 years here. Will the runners go? Nope. Chavez hustling. Woodward out, and it's Woodward. Get it back in quickly. 2 away.
Well, nice change up here from Pedro. Watch it come out of the glove. I mean, out of his hand, please. See how that ball just floats, never gets there. Out in front is Devannon, and nice play by Chris Woodward. He went very deep for that pop fly, catching it in front of Andy Chavez. Look at where he is. That's a long way to have to go to sprint and not only make that play. I think that Andy Chavez could have got it if Woody didn't get there, but nice play by Woodward.
So now Gonzalez. He's 2 for 12 now in this series after a first inning single. Ortiz at second, Counsell at first, and 0-1 to Luis Gonzalez. That's straight up against him in the outfield. And the 0-1. Pedro pulling the string there. The count 0-2.
It's that cutter again. Although LaDuca wants it outside, this has been the problem for the home run. See how that ball comes back over the center? That's been the pitch that Pedro's gotten hurt on. Gonzalez missed the pitch there, and he knows it. Shift on for the Mets also against Gonzo.
Chad Tracy waiting on deck. Mets have out hit Arizona 4-3. The Met runs coming in the first inning again. And the 1-2 pitch just missed. Just missed going in that back door.
Well, I was saying that Pedro really has discarded that curveball. They are coming back with it though. Nice backdoor curveball, just missing outside. Now he has any way he wants to go. He can throw that cutter outside, try to paint him outside, change up down, back with the curveball.
So again, what was 0-2 is now 3-2, and Pedro has not had that put away pitch. Castro will remind everyone the runners will be going on 3-2 with 2 out. They're on the move, and Gonzalez down on strikes. So Pedro has him way out in front for his second strikeout. 1 hit, 2 left, 3 in the books, 3-0 New York. All right, Foreman, I dare you to step over this line. I guess he stepped. So Russ Ortiz will go to the 4th inning with the Mets still leading 3-0 here in the wild, wild west.
Webby's in there saying, give me a whiskey in a dirty glass.
Was that staged, or did Webby just walk into that last shot? Here's Pedro. And here's the guy who won the duel. That's why he's in the ballpark and in one piece. Martinez sacrificed successfully his first time. I'll check the swing at first, but no swing according to Kerwin Danley. Martinez and then Reyes and Chavez here in the 4th inning. That's strike 1-1. One and 2 to Martinez, with Reyes waiting. And the 1-2 pitch on the outside corner. So Martinez becomes the 4th strikeout victim of Russ Ortiz. And our Dodge trivia question asks for the last Mets rookie right-handed pitcher to throw a complete game shutout. L.A. Soler, of course, did it last night, so he's not the answer we're looking for. And Reyes fouls it off. No balls and 1 strike. Right-hand pitcher would be the operative term to that trivia question. That curveball went nowhere, and it's 1-1 on Reyes.
The problem when you cup the ball and you throw a curveball, you'll see any of those pitchers, it's very inconsistent. They'll throw a great one every once in a while because everything will be right, but to cup it and then come out of that cup and then get on top of it again, very difficult to do consistently.
This is high there, 2-1.
Only person I've ever seen do it consistently is, we talked about it before, David Cone. Had an amazing breaking ball and was able to do it consistently because his mechanics were so good.
We mentioned Whitey Herzog with the Cardinals really tried to get into Coney's head early in David's career.
Was he successful? No.
I don't think so, based on the long-term returns. But now Estrada has to deal with a howling finger after that foul tip.
These catchers take a beating over the course of the season. I don't know how they do it. You know what that did? That hit him right on the top of the glove. So what that does, it snaps the top of his fingers back. Two places on their hand that really suffers. That kind of foul tip, and then the one that's foul tip and it hits them right on the base of the thumb. That's why a lot of them wear thumb guards on their hand to protect that. Doesn't look like Estrada does.
It's amazing what catchers used to have to catch with. I mean, that glove nowadays has a lot of bend and break to it. In the old days was almost like a cereal bowl. Still 2-2 to Reyes.
Well, Ron Hodges was a catcher with the Mets when I first came up, and he had one of those that just had like a pocket that you maybe would fit something a little bigger than a baseball, but not too much bigger than that, and he would catch with two hands. One of the less catchers that in those days you had to catch with two because the gloves weren't that great. So end up with some gnarly fingers.
2-2 to Reyes. And ball 3. I haven't been up to the Hall of Fame in a long time, but probably my favorite exhibit when I went up there was on the equipment, and they had gloves that were used in the 1910s and 20s and later on, and you see the evolution and you wonder why nobody hits 400 anymore. Still full to Jose.
I agree with you. That seeing the evolution of gloves, shin guards, things, the masks, all that stuff, and of course in the early days of baseball you shared a mitt. The left fielder, when he came in from the field, he just left his mitt out there. The opposing left fielder would go out and get it. High tech now.
Another payoff pitch, and Reyes earned that walk. Several foul balls. 3 walks now by Ortiz. 2 of them have been named Reyes. Gas prices got you down? Well, how does gas for free sound? Every weekday this summer, the WB11 is giving away $50 worth of gas for free. Log on to WB11.com for details on how watching Computercast could put gas in your tank and help you spend less time in traffic, too. So Chavez batting, Reyes aboard. Let's see if there's a play on. Ortiz thinks there could be. Chavez bunted his way on in the first inning after Reyes walked. He pushed a punt back towards the pitcher, and although Ortiz got to it, the best he could do was smother it. Chavez wound up at first base. That got Reyes from second to third after Jose had stolen second. Chris Connor is standing by somewhere here at Chase Field.
Hey, Howie, you know, I'm down here by the Mets dugout and just looking at Jose Reyes, you know, he's still nursing that injured right wrist, and I asked him about how he feels hitting, and he said he still can only hit left-handed, and it actually is good because no left-handers here in the bullpen for the Diamondbacks, and also he'll be facing 3 right-handed starters in Philadelphia, so he may not have to turn around and hit right-handed during that series, so that's good. The other thing is about sliding. I asked him sliding head first. Does he worry about re-injuring it? And he told me even before he got injured, he always slides extending the left arm out just a little bit longer, and that's the arm he grabs the base with.
He's got it down to his science. In Philly, there are a couple of lefties in the bullpen as Chavez takes up high. We have the veteran Real Cormier and also Aaron Folks. But by then, Jose may be comfortable enough hitting right-handed.
Gets a day off tomorrow. A lot of the guys that are hurting always will come in for treatment early in the morning. I know Cliff Floyd said that Monday morning he'll go in, get treatment, and try to stay off that ankle the rest of the day.
And maybe Cliff will be ready to go in Philadelphia. He's top step Floyd today. So 2-0 to Chavez. Reyes running. Ball 3. Estrada's throw not nearly in time. And pending Corey Patterson's performance for the Baltimore Orioles earlier today, and they got shut out. Reyes now the league leader in the majors in steals.
Well, Johnny Estrada, you can't even say anything about his stuff. That's not a great throw, but he has no chance with how long that Russ Ortiz takes to get the ball to the plate. Ortiz has that high leg kick, he cups the ball, and by the time he delivers, Reyes is at second.
3-0 to Chavez. And ball 4. So 4 walks in 4 innings. And that's what Ortiz has been doing, walking a batter an inning for a long time now. Mets have opened up a big lead in the stolen base department among National League teams.
And they're at 86% success rate coming into this game. That'll only improve.
Mets doing it with 5 home runs a couple of nights ago. They've been running all year. Mets are 3rd in the league in home runs.
Taking the extra base, playing smart and good defense. Smart and good defense. What I'm meaning by that, last night Jose Valentin had a couple of plays where he just got the out at second base. Just getting out sometimes is just as important as trying to turn a double play. Reduce that team's chance to come back.
Well, the Mets still looking for that one knockout blow against Ortiz. Mets left the bases loaded in the 3rd, left a man in scoring position in the 1st, as well as a man at 3rd in the 2nd. Beltran 0 for 2. And he rips one to the gap in right center, and that could get 2 in. Reyes scores. Chavez churning around 3rd. Beltran to 2nd. Chavez scores standing 5-0 New York. Third RBI for Beltran.
Well, lots of good things happening up in the strike zone. Little hanging cutter from Russ Ortiz. Well placed by Beltran. That was a shot to right center. You can see Willie getting the gap. He said, get in the gap. It did. With Endy Chavez on first. You know he's going to score. 2 runs in for the Mets. 5-0.
So now they've got Ortiz on the ropes. Delgado 1 for 2. And a strike going 1. It's Kevin Jarvis loosening up quickly for the Diamondbacks.
If he gets on, he's scoring just about all the time.
Mets have now scored 12 unanswered runs in this series. Ticked off the bat of Delgado, so a foul ball. And it's 0-2.
That was the 80th pitch from Russ Ortiz. Just, you can't pitch like this and be successful. You just can't.
Well, he's just not even close to where he was earlier in his career.
That guy was excellent last night, except for the first inning.
1-2. Yeah, Brandon Webb lost for the first time last night. 3 of the 4 they scored against him were unearned. Those 3 first inning runs. But Ale Soler was simply better.
Soler again with El Duque before the game. He's getting comfortable in that dugout.
Delgado with a rip past Jackson into the corner. That'll get Beltran home easily. Delgado into 2nd. And the Mets have a 6-0 lead. They're just mashing the Diamondbacks for the 2nd straight year in a 4-game series.
Well, this is a hanging curveball right down the middle, trying to come inside. It stayed over the middle of the plate. Connor Jackson, no play at first because the ball was hit that hard. Beltran with that beautiful stride scores easily. Delgado and Beltran trade places. Beltran with a double to 2nd.
Well, you got a few innings left before that broom. Although you can understand the exuberance because of what the Mets have done to this Arizona club. 28 runs already in this series. You think Floyd wants in?
You know, I'll tell you, it's early in the season, but I bet you Philadelphia and Atlanta, who both lost today, are looking at this score and going, the Mets are winning 6-0 again? Opposing teams notice when another team is beating up on another team.
Well, here's Wright taking a strike, 0-1. The Phillies will get a chance to do something about it themselves when the Mets get to Philadelphia. Begin that 3-game series on Tuesday night. Kevin Jarvis may be in here before long. Phillies got beat today by Washington 6-0. And right with a fair ball down the line. Delgado can trot home. Right to second. 7-0 New York. 3 straight doubles. And you would think that'll be about it for Russ Ortiz. Bob Melvin just wants to give Jarvis, you would think, a couple more pitches. And now here comes Melvin. So they have knocked out Russ Ortiz here in the 4th inning. Mets have a 7-0 lead, and this call to the bullpen is brought to you by Singular Wireless, raising the bar. Well, Russ Ortiz, the latest to feel the wrath of the Mets bats. The last 10 games in this ballpark, 4 last year, 4 this year, and 2 in 2004, have produced those numbers. Wow. Well, Bill Webb was handing out his business card before the game. And Kevin Jarvis will take over the pitching for the Diamondbacks. Chris Woodward with right at second. And 1-0.
Well, Jarvis did a good job 2 nights ago. An inning and 2/3. No runs allowed. Journeyman pitcher here for the Diamondbacks.
And the Mets enjoying the journey. Woody goes around. Consider that last year when the Mets came in here in August and smoked the Diamondbacks 4 straight, they outscored them 39-7. Well, here we are in the 4th game of this series, and in the 4th inning, the Mets in these 4 games have outscored them 29-7. 2-1 to Woodward. Mets have not hit a home run in this game, nor did they go deep last night. They hit 5 home runs on Friday night and 1 on Thursday. Today, 3 straight doubles got rid of Ortiz. Now the breaking ball misses to Woodward. 3-1. Full count.
Kind of funny with this 7-0 lead. You see all the players relaxing, big smiles, boy, having fun. Pedro's face still locked in because he has to be. Plenty of work to do for Pedro.
He's only pitched 3 innings. Mets have had some long turns at bat. And Woodward down on strikes. So Jarvis comes out of the bullpen to record a punch out. 2 away.
Well, great sinker. This starts in the outside corner. Watch this dip down and into Woodward. Johnny Estrada had a hard time even catching that sinker from Jarvis.
So now it's Castro. Ramon a line out to the pitcher and drew a walk. On the outside corner. Well, you're the birthday boy. You got to be having some fun.
How do you spend a birthday when you're in the big leagues? Play a big league game, you get on a plane, by the time you get to Philadelphia, it's not your birthday anymore.
Yeah, really.
That's what birthdays in baseball are like.
So you make up for it on the field. 0-2 to Castro, and Jose has done that with a couple of walks and a couple of steals. For Castro, this is his 16th start. We may see him now as a pinch hitter a little bit more with Eli Marrero here. Well, he would be less likely to save Castro, knowing Marrero could catch in an emergency. And that's all assuming that Loduca is in the game and you just have the need for another right-hand bat. Loduca now gets 2 days off, today and tomorrow. One-two to Castro. Broken bat and a foul ball.
That ball had backspin on it. I don't know if you saw that, Howie. Not only did the bat stick in the ground, this is called getting sawed off. His fastball running in on the hands of Ramon Castro. Breaking that bat in two.
Sal Ramon with a fresh piece of lumber. The Phillies have lost. Sorry.
You could see him smiling there. Someone from the Arizona bench must have said something to him, because that was about as bad as you can get sawed off.
So Wright leading from second. And it'll be a 1-2 to Castro. Breaking ball inside. Mentioned, Ronnie, the Phillies have lost. So have the Braves. Mets started play today against Ortiz, 5.5 up, and in position to increase that.
The team playing the best in the division other than the Mets are the Washington Nationals.
There you go. All the scores in the National League right there, but we zero in on the ones most pertinent to the Mets. Full count. Saw the Cubbies beating the Reds there for the 3rd straight game, cooling off a previously hot Cincinnati team.
They had won 8 in a row, hadn't they? 8 straight.
Cardinals won today, so they're now a game and a half in front of the Reds in the National League Central. Payoff pitch to Castro. Ball 4. And that means the Mets will bat around as Lasting's Millage becomes the 9th man to hit in the inning. First walk by Jarvis.
Pedro getting his helmet. Also, Joe Girardi's got those Marlins playing a lot better. They've won 10 out of the last 15.
Dan Uggla, one of those young Marlins, having a big year offensively.
No, they'll be a lot better in September. Joe Girardi is just an excellent manager, excellent instructor. By September, they'll be playing fine, those young players.
Millage with a foul ball. Lasting struck out looking on a 3-2 breaking ball from Ortiz, leaving the bases loaded in the 3rd inning. Now he's got 2 aboard here with 2 out in the 4th. Millage now 1 for his last 12. He got out in front, hit it hard, but it's 0-2. Mets have specialized in this trip on those crooked numbers you talk about, Ron.
Boy. 6 2-runs, 4 3-runs, and 4 4-runs.
Yeah, this is their 4th 4-run inning. Beltran drove in 2 of them. 1-2 to Millage. The runner at second, David Wright, is the responsibility of the starting pitcher Ramon Ortiz. Connor Jackson giving chase, but it's beyond his reach. In the 1st inning, only 1 of the 3 runs were earned. It's Eli Marrero talking to Beltran. So right now it's 7 earned runs, or 7 runs, 5 of which are earned against the account of Ortiz.
Marcel Duque, hard to believe they let him go in the trade with the trouble they're having to start pitching.
Little looper, but it'll hold up for Green. And the Mets are finally done in the 4th inning, but they add 4 runs. And in the middle of the 4th, happy birthday to you too. Well, Jose Reyes is not the only one around here with a birthday today, so we have obliged. Happy birthday to you too. And it must feel like happy birthday to Pedro, because he's got 7 runs to work with.
I'll tell you though, he's concerned because he knows that his control's not been here for the last start in 3 innings. So he's afforded a bit of the luxury of having this big lead, but he's going to really try to work very hard to get back into where he belongs.
Well, he's certainly got a cushion now. He'll face the middle of the Diamondbacks batting order. Chad Tracy, Connor Jackson, and Sean Green here in the 4th inning. Pedro's thrown 60 pitches through the first 3. That's a very high count for him. And he falls behind Tracy 1-0. Well, at least it's not the white flag they're throwing up here. 2-0 to Chad Tracy. course, we're about a month away from the All-Star game, so fans filling out their ballots.
No hanging chads now. Make sure you vote for the Mets. I think Delgado and LaDuca so far
Might be a
top of their position.
Maybe a hanging Chad Tracy or two on those Diamondbacks All-Star ballots. Ball 3. Carlos Beltran certainly earning consideration. All-Star game this year will be played in Pittsburgh in that gorgeous new PNC Park. Full count to Tracy.
You know, watching Pedro, it seems to me, and I talked to him on Tuesday about it, it seems to me like he's in between modes. He doesn't know whether to go hard Pedro mode or just kind of pick at the corners Pedro mode. He's right in between, and he's having trouble finding his control.
Well, this will be a payoff pitch, and he got him. So for Pedro Martinez, his 3rd strikeout. Now, with a big lead, would that take you in one direction or the other?
No, I think that Pedro is going to stick to his game plan that he has here for the Diamondbacks. Now, if it's 3-2, he's going to probably throw a fastball. You're going to get it. You're not going to get a changeup or a curveball. So the hitters have an advantage there. But I think, you know, I think Pedro really is just pitching to find his excellence again. You know, he's been very ordinary this last game and a half. There, strike 1, down and away. Find his spots. And they can be elusive sometimes. You go through an entire year, you're going to have some bumps in the road where you just can't find your control. You can't find that breaking ball. You just got to keep working at it.
Connor Jackson puts it into the air and right for the 2nd out.
Now batting, number 15, right fielder, Sean Green.
It's a nice little promotion they do here in Phoenix. Youngster named Jacob Hewlett is the, as they call him here, little announcer for the half inning. Pretty big thrill for a kid who looks to be about 10 years old. 0-1 to Sean Green. Let's have Alex Anthony, who's been doing that job at Shea Stadium so well for the last several years. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll go into Yankee Stadium and hear the legend, Bob Shepard.
Oh, my favorite. I'm telling you, as a player, when he announced your name, you would stop and listen to it. That's how good he is.
That's when you know you've made it, huh? A baseball card and Bob Shepard calls your name.
What if he gets Shigetoshi Hasegawa?
He's young enough to be able to get it right on the first shot. Delgado to Martinez, and Pedro has a 1-2-3 inning. So it's on to the 5th inning. Nice to see you, Jacob. Good job. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by ChevyOffers.com. The latest offers from Chevrolet. Well, it's the old I'm going to propose to you at the ballpark trick, so act as though you don't know it's coming routine. And she played it to perfection.
I don't know. She's a great actress then, because she really was touched.
So Maddie and Romeo are getting hitched.
Wow.
She couldn't change her name to Juliet just for some poetic license. Pedro goes after the first pitch, and it falls in front of Devannon. So once again, the Mets get the leadoff man on.
Of course it falls. Like everything else has been falling in place for the Mets, as Pedro gives his sign to the bench that he was right on it. Now listen, Pedro knows, like anyone else, we see this little blue pit tomorrow in the box score. That's a line drive.
Probably be talking about that regardless of how many goose eggs he throws up. Pedro's 3rd hit of the year. So here's Reyes, and it's 0-1. Reyes' wheels accounting for a couple of runs.
What if Jose Reyes hits one of those patented triples? How close do you think he can get to Pedro?
I don't know, but if I'm Pedro, I'm stepping on the gas. Another looper. This one hangs for Devannon. So one away, and let's go back to that Dodge trivia question where we're looking for the identity of the last Mets rookie right-hand pitcher. He wouldn't happen to be sitting just a couple of feet to my right, would he?
I don't think so.
No, that'd be Doc against the Pirates in his rookie year.
Now, was that the game he struck out 16?
To beat Herb Score? I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that was against the Pirates. I think he had back-to-back double-digit strikeouts with complete game shutouts in September of that rookie year.
So I remember the leadoff hitter for Pittsburgh that night was Marvell Wynn, who had been a teammate of mine in the Mets organization, but was traded to Pittsburgh.
0-1 to Chavez.
Marvell Wynn was a fine center fielder, great player. And I just heard that his son in the recent soccer draft, North American Soccer League draft, was picked #1.
Really?
Marvell Wynn Jr.
I didn't know that. You know, speaking of those Pirates, that was a young team that had gone through or was beginning to go through quite a transformation. Andy Chavez looking for the gap, and he finds it. And now how hard's Pedro going to be able to go here? He'll have to stop at third. And Chavez with his second hit. If it wasn't for Pedro, he might have had a triple, even though it was to left center.
Just what can you say about Andy Chavez and his contribution to this team? As Pedro's wheeling it around. Listen, they don't pay him to run anyway. They pay him to get outs.
Come on, Pedro. Step on it, Pedro.
He looks ahead. He was thinking of going for 3.
Absolutely. Well, now you've got Beltran, first base open, but Delgado on deck. And it's 1-0 on Beltran. So Carlos, who got credit for an RBI in the first inning, even as an error was made by the second baseman Hudson, who was playing back with a runner at third, then doubled in 2 in the 4th. Back underneath us, 1-1.
You know how we were talking about the Mets having a day off tomorrow. No one needs a day off more than the Arizona Diamondbacks, you know, to get away from the ball field, get away from having to answer the Jason Grimsley questions, and then come back fresh on Tuesday.
What about the Mets? Do they want a day off as hot as they've been?
I think that you want to keep on playing, but I think it's good to give the starting pitchers an extra day. Pedro will get an extra day. Tommy Glavine, after pitching on 3 days rest, will get an extra day. A lot of Met fans here in Arizona.
And the way they're set up for Philadelphia, Glavine against Madsen on Tuesday, El Duque and Myers on Wednesday, Trexel and Lytle on Thursday. Broken bat, tough play, little flare, and it falls in. Pedro scores, Chavez to third, 8-0 New York. They're getting every break imaginable.
Well, Beltran just strong enough, and Hudson was playing about halfway. And Pedro at third base, he didn't know what to do, but he finally comes in, plays about halfway. Nandez Chavez probably would have scored on this, but Manny Actor being very conservative, holding Chavez up at third.
I hope you were able to hear some of that stuff going on in the dugout too. They were yelling to Pedro, "You're raking," and he said, "I'm raking." 8 runs on 10 hits. 1 out. Delgado deep to left center. Chavez will score. Beltran will come around third, and Beltran makes it 10-0 as Delgado stands at second with a double. Some are broken bats, and others are rips to the gap. Broken bat in the rip. And that's 3 more runs, and it's 10-0. Still only 1 out. And now David Wright. And it's 0-1. It's only the top of the 5th. Wonder if Willie might rest 1 or 2 players between now and the end of this game.
But it might be nice to get Marrero into the game. Get him a couple of bats in his new uniform.
Maybe get Julio Franco a few innings at first base. Although now that Delgado's bat is starting to come around, I wonder if he might be reluctant to come out. Carlos just driving in 2 runs. He's driven in 3.
He can stay where he is. He's been playing a lot.
Yeah.
Woodward will stay in the second base.
2-1 to Wright. That's with 3 runs on 4 hits in this inning, even though Reyes flied out. And now Aquino getting ready in the bullpen. Sean Green near the line. 2 out. And Chris Woodward will be next. Mets with 10 runs on 11 hits. They have outscored the Diamondbacks 32-7 in this series. And as remarkable as that is, it is shockingly remarkable juxtaposed with the 4-game sweep here last year when they outscored the Diamondbacks 39-7. No balls and 1 strike. I mean, that just doesn't happen.
This is the massacre at OK Corral. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we've seen the guns a blaring. 1-1 to Woodward.
Carlos explaining how he somehow managed to drop that ball into right field for a base hit.
2-1 to Woody. Mets have hit 6 doubles in this game. The Diamondbacks are the team that actually lead the National League in doubles. But 6 of the Mets' 11 have been for 2 bases. No home runs by the Mets. Up the line, foul. 2-2. If she's a Diamondback fan, she doesn't care about the score now that she's got that souvenir.
It's the only ball that hasn't been in a gap this afternoon. Right?
So it'll be a 2-2 to Woodward. Ball 3. How difficult must it be to play behind a pitcher in this situation? Your team is getting pasted night after night. And these guys had to persevere behind the struggling Russ Ortiz, and now a tough inning by Jarvis. And it gets even tougher as Delgado will go to third as that ball glances off the mid of Estrada on ball 4 to Woodward. So even an innocent walk moves a runner up when he wasn't forced. That's tough for an outfielder, especially. A lot of standing around. A little more of it now with Brian Price going out to the mound.
You know, you never want to think that a game is over if you're a manager, but even if I was Bob Melvin, I might try to get some of my bench players out there, Howie, and just get my veterans who've gone through this tough 7-game losing streak, just get them in their dress clothes and try to wash away this day in the shower. And
you'd need a lot of suds to do that.
Yeah, you would, but you have that off day, and these kind of series can really wear on you if you're not mentally tough. I'm talking about the Diamondbacks. They need to really just, forget it. That happened. It's been a tough week all the way around for them. Take that off day and come back out blazing, hopefully.
So, runners at the corners for Castro, and he is the 8th man to bat in this inning after the Mets batted around in the last one. On the outside corner, 0-1. Ramon now has just 2 hits in his last 23 at bats. Remember last year he had every manner of big hit for this ball club, playing behind Mike Piazza. Gets jammed there. Gonzalez a late start, counts out, and that falls in. Delgado crosses the plate with the 11th Met run. I don't know if all that standing around out there we alluded to before was a factor, but Gonzalez just did not get a good jump on that high fly ball. 11-0 New York.
Well, the way that things are rolling for the Mets, maybe on their off day they should go to Atlantic City. I mean,
that is a good idea. Well, here's Millage again with 2 out. He has personally left 5 men aboard in the last 2 innings. Look where Gonzalez is standing, Ron. That might have contributed to his not seeing that ball off the bat. One little strip. And Millage, foul ball. Look who's on deck again. Guy who started the inning. Every Met in the starting lineup has reached base. Not all of them have hits. Actually, Millage and Reyes are the only ones who don't. Now it's just Reyes. That one finds a seam, and that one's going to the wall, and that's going to get 2 more runs home, assuming Castro makes it. Millage to third, 13-0 New York. Oh, Castro's huffing and puffing. There's no 13-run rule, so on we go. And Millage has his 2nd big league triple.
Well, this ball is in the line. You know why? This just avoids the shortstop, Craig Counsell, and it's hit so hard that Burns could never get the angle on it to stop it, and it goes all the way to the wall. That was like a AstroTurf hit. That's how fast that ball skidded on that grass.
Grass is short out there too. Does Pedro even want to swing the bat here?
Well, they said he was raking. How many pitchers have gotten 2 hits in an inning in a game? Not many.
Well, Greg Aquino ought to be about ready. Well, you couldn't blame him if he went to hide right about now. A 6-run 5th inning. Pedro not only swings the bat, he puts it in play, and Green puts it away. And so the 5th inning is over. Enjoy the montage. It produces 6 Met runs, and in the middle of the 5th inning you add all this up and it is 13-0 New York. Well, if you're starting to add up the numbers on the left, just look to the right and that'll give you the totals. 13 runs in 5 innings, and unbelievably the Mets have now outscored the Diamondbacks 35-7 in this 4-game series, a year after sweeping them in 4 games by outscoring them 39-7. Pedro Martinez with 13 runs in his pocket delivers ball 1 to Johnny Estrada.
Question maybe bears asking. Pedro in the 5th inning here gets through this inning. Maybe you use your bullpen to get some guys some work.
Estrada launches one to deep right. Chavez back, and there goes the shutout. Johnny Estrada's 5th home run of the year, and it's now 13-1. And that is the 12th home run given up by Pedro Martinez in 85 innings. Strike one to Orlando Hudson. Your point about the bullpen, Ronnie, is very well taken, as Woodward throws out Hudson. Remember, the Mets have received 2 complete games in the prior 3 games of this series. Feliciano, Heilman, Sanchez, and Wagner got in 2 nights ago.
Well, again, that fastball in the outer part of the plate has been a nemesis for Pedro. That ball's up in the strike zone. But you know, you can get Bradford an inning, you can get Heath Bell an inning. Sort of like what you do in spring training, just get some guys some work to get them fresh, especially since you have the off day tomorrow.
And we'll see whether or not Willie Randolph and Rick Peterson are on that same page, as Damian Easley bats for Kevin Jarvis. Rough outing for Jarvis, 1 2/3 innings, and he gives up 6 runs. Two and 1 to Easley. That about sums up a lot of things that Diamondback players are feeling right about now. That is Jose Valverde, and you know, a lot of that's on him too. He was the closer for this team. Struggled mightily. Mets even got to him a couple of nights ago. Ripped into the glove of right for the 2nd out. Guy who's taken over as the closer here, although he's certainly not going to get a chance in that category unless something very unlikely happens, is the former Met Jorge Julio. You wonder if he'll just get some work today as well, since he hasn't been in this series. So 2 away. Carlos Delgado took Valverde deep in the game on Friday night. Oh, and 2. Little bit low to Counsell. 13-1 game, and Tim Welke has a thimble-sized strike zone. Still 1 and 2. This season, your Tri-State Hyundai dealers and WB11 team up to help kids strike out cancer. Every strikeout recorded by a Met pitcher will add $100 to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. If you'd like to help, please call 1-212-305-1420 for more information. Mets must be doing something of historic proportions offensively, because Jay Horwitz is in here, but now he's waving me off. Jay just came to say hello. Did he bring any Danish? Any Rugala? Nothing. Knish? Anything. Base hit for Counsell with 2 out. Counsell's 3 for 3. There's Jay Horwitz in the background, disseminating information to Ron Darling. Just what Jay does best.
Never stops, even a 13-1 game.
He's an
100%.
Jay is an information guy. See you, Jay.
He has his entourage too.
Really? Somebody dropped off ice cream here. Well, here's Jeff Devannon fouling it back to the screen. 0-1. Devannon flied to left and popped to second. Diamondbacks with 5 hits in the game so far. This game a little more than 2 hours old already. And even though Counsell's aboard, it's the Mets who have been doing all the base running. 1-1. Diamondbacks have lost 6 straight games. A week ago, they were as hot an item as there was in baseball. Little number 1 and 2. Remember, they went into Atlanta and swept the 4-game series. They haven't won since. The Phillies came in here and swept them a 3-game series. And the Mets may very well be on their way to making it 7 straight losses.
Well, I was talking to some of the Diamondback players in their clubhouse, and they were saying a week ago, this is how baseball is. A week ago, they were on top of the world. They said, hey, we've got a real chance of making a run here. We're going to be the team in the West. And a week later, couldn't be any more down than they are now.
And yet the important thing for them is that it is not a terribly deep or strong division. And yeah, a bad week can tumble you a bit, but not far enough away where you don't have a chance to climb back. 1-2 pitch to Devaney.
They've just got to remember that if they had been told in spring training on June 11th they'd be tied for first place in the National League West, they would have taken it. So they're still in good position.
It's a Diamondback team that just 2 years ago lost 111 games. So as Lasting's Millage tracks that fly ball and puts it away, things may be bleak for the Diamondbacks today and this weekend, but they've come a long way in a short time as we head to the 6th. Hey, be the next junior Metscaster if you're between the ages of 8 and 14. Come to the Sports Authority in Forest Hills, Queens on Saturday, June 17th, or in Westbury, Long Island on Saturday, June 24th from noon to 2 p.m. for your special audition. 10 participants will qualify for the final round held at Shea Stadium. Visit Mets.com or the Sports Authority nearest you for more details. So Greg Aquino will become the third pitcher used by the Diamondbacks, and Damian Easley will stay in the game and play shortstop. So a double switch as Easley, who pinch hit for Kevin Jarvis, stays in and bats ninth. And the pitcher Aquino bats in the first slot of the batting order.
Greg Aquino, who was drafted as an infielder as a 16-year-old. We saw him pitch against the Mets on the first night. Reached 97 miles an hour, so a great arm.
1-0 to Reyes, who is already in the batter's box for the 5th time as this game moves to the 6th inning. 2 balls and no strikes. He's walked twice, stolen twice, and scored twice. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point about Reyes, as Eli Marrero gets ready to make his Mets debut. He may hit for Beltran because the on-deck batter is Endy Chavez, and he's in the on-deck circle.
You think Beltran's done enough damage today?
Yeah. 3-1. One of the reasons you look at Delgado, and Reyes has drawn a 3rd walk of the game. So Aquino gets into the act by allowing a walk. Remember now, Met fans, this is the 6th inning, and all season the 6th inning means that it's time to swing for sandwiches. If a Met hits a home run this inning, you can log on to WB11.com for your chance to score a $100 gift card at Subway. So now Endy Chavez as Marrero moves on deck. 0-1 to Endy, who's had a good game. Couple of hits. He scored 3 runs. He's thrown a runner out at the plate. Now it's in the 1st inning. Seems like 6 hours ago, doesn't it? And now Darren Oliver throwing in the bullpen for the Mets. So you're right, Ronnie. Time to get the bullpen some work.
Yeah, they need some work with the day off tomorrow. Pedro's done his job today.
1-1 pitch. And Chavez robbed by Hudson. Not in time for a double play. Perfectly timed leap by Hudson. And Reyes just gets back.
Well, nice play by Orlando Hudson. Got rid of it as quick as he could, but Reyes, good base running. Always freeze on a line drive. Reyes did that.
So now Eli Marrero makes his Mets debut as a pinch hitter. Marrero's a guy who came up as a catcher. Marrero broke into the major leagues behind the plate with the St. Louis Cardinals in 1997. Fouls a pitch back. Played against the Mets in the 2000 National League Championship Series. Went from the Cardinals to the Braves 2 years ago and has been a vagabond since. Kansas City and Baltimore last year, Colorado, and now the Mets this year. He's only 32 years of age. 0-2 to Marrero. He's battled back from a serious illness. He bats now for Beltran. He had thyroid cancer some years ago and came back successfully. Off the outside corner, 1-2 to Marrero. So Marrero, who was born in Cuba but went to high school in Miami, gives the Mets 1/3 of all the Cuban-born players in baseball. Mets have 3 of them now, also including Ale Soler and, of course, El Duque. And the 1-2. Breaking ball got him. So Marrero down on strikes, 2 away. First strikeout for Aquino.
Well, this is nasty. The slider from Aquino kind of backs up on that inside corner, fooling Marrero in his first at bat as a Met.
2 out, and now Delgado, who's done a lot of good on the field and off the field this year as well. I've told you before about his charitable foundation, Extra Bases, which raises money to support his ideas through the sale of white wristbands with the inscription "Follow Your Dreams." They sell those bracelets at Shea Stadium for $3. And this year, Carlos has raised $24,500 to assist underprivileged and deserving youngsters in the community and abroad. It's a nonprofit Puerto Rican-based charity that he's looking to expand to help the children of New York, too. If you want to learn more about it, go to the web at www.extrabases.org. That's nice. $24,500 raised already this season. And the 2-0 taken high, ball 3. Particular source of pride to Carlos, apart from the foundation and his work today. The Puerto Rican Day Parade held in New York this afternoon. High, ball 4. 2 walks in the inning by Aquino. Met batters have now been walked 8 times in this game. And it'll bring up David Wright.
I just had this vision that you'd pinch run for Carlos Delgado with Julio Franco. Right? That would be something.
Why not?
That would be a sense of amusement on the plane for the plane ride to Philadelphia, I'm sure.
We've already seen Castro come around from first. I'm sure he'll get some ribbing about that. And that he has already. And Wright takes inside 1-0. You wonder if David might take one more hack here and then sit down. Although really not all that many opportunities to do it based on the Mets bench right now. 1 ball and 1 strike.
You know, being a pitcher, I never, all I knew about hitting is nothing, how not to do it. But I wonder how hard it is for a guy, especially like David Wright, plays every inning just about of every game. I wonder how hard it is to can't have the same level of concentration here that you'd have in the first at bat of the game. But I guess the good ones do. The good ones don't waste at bats. The good ones want more and more. Pete Rose was like that. He said, if I have 3 hits, I'm dying to get 4. I get 4, I'm going for 5.
David will tell you he's not worried about personal stats, but he's in a race for the batting lead. Breaking ball gets him, strike 3. David came into the game today just 2 points off the league leaders, Scott Rowland. But David's now 1 for 5, and it's only the 6th inning. That tells you something about the score. Next weekend, interleague play returns to Shea, so don't miss an inning as the Mets battle it out with the Baltimore Orioles. Catch 2 big games right here on the WB11. Mets and the Orioles Saturday at 7 and Sunday at 1 on the WB11. As Eli Marrero stays in the game in center field. And Darren Oliver takes over the pitching for the Mets. Howie Rose for Gary Cohen, along with Ron Darling and Chris Cotter. Glad you've joined us from Phoenix, where the Mets have had a party. Leading the Diamondbacks 13-1, going after a 4-game sweep. And Pedro Martinez done after 5, so Oliver gets some work.
Well, for a guy that you weren't sure is going to make the team out of spring training, what a job Darren Oliver has done for Willie Randolph and the Mets. He's pitched in some tight spots, but also his main purpose is eating up innings in long relief. A former starting pitcher, of course. We're in Los Angeles. There's Willie, Sandy Alomar Jr. We're in Los Angeles. I got to meet Darren's father, Bob Oliver, a former Major League player.
You never pitched to him, did you?
No, he's just before me.
.3-1 pitch, and it's inside, ball 4 to Adam Green, who was batting there for Luis Gonzalez. So Bob Melvin emptying his bench, or at least beginning to. And Darren Oliver, with a 12-run lead, walks the leadoff man.
Ouch.
Oliver last pitched on Tuesday, pitched an inning against the Dodgers. Misses inside there to Chad Tracy.
Well, Castro's going out there to talk to Oliver, puts his arm around him and says, hey, you want to take a peek at the scoreboard? It's 13-1. So let's just throw some strikes, let him put it in play. We'll catch it.
Oliver pitched 1 inning on Saturday against the Giants. That's last Saturday. So he's pitched 2 innings in the last 8 days. And a strike to Tracy, 1-1. And in the game in which L.A. Soler pitched against the Diamondbacks at Shea, Oliver went the last 4 innings. Diamondbacks would win that game 7-2, but Darren was able to give the rest of the bullpen some relief. And shot the other way. Millage with the ball carrying, recovers. That was a little more adventurous than Lasting's Millage had in mind off the bat. 1 out.
What happens when that ball comes off the bat of the left-hander? It'll slice towards the line and it'll come down almost straight down. Doesn't carry out there to left. I mean, I know we're inside, but when a left-hander hits it to left, he doesn't drive it there. It kind of comes off the end of the bat, so it kind of sits down as it's going to that corner.
So 1 out, and Connor Jackson, who's popped up and fouled out. A little bit low, 1-0. So Pedro's line today, 5 innings, 5 hits, 1 run earned. It was the home run by Estrada, 1 walk and 3 strikeouts. Pedro just looking to get back on the winning side, pick up his first victory since the 28th of April. Mets, as a rule, through most of that drought, did not give him a whole lot of runs, but more than plenty today. Now it's 2-0 to Jackson. Ball 3. Tough job for a pitching coach or a manager to take the 11th or 12th pitcher on the staff and give him enough work to keep him somewhat sharp. Cutter for a strike, 3-1.
That's why I think in these games you have to take advantage of them and get your pitchers who haven't been pitching. So you see Willie talking to the catcher, Ramon, let's go, pick it up a little bit, trying to get the tempo, get Oliver moving a little bit.
Full count. You know, when Oliver picked up for Soler in that game on the last homestand, there was some speculation that maybe Oliver was stretched out to pitch 4 innings to keep him on Soler's day and maybe give him that slot the next time through the rotation. Runner goes, and the pitch hit through the middle. And that'll get Adam Green to third base. Runners at the corners with 1 out. Willie resisted the temptation and stayed with Soler, and boy, has that ever paid off.
Well, a cutter inside doesn't get there inside. Oliver did not want to walk 2 in a row, threw it down the middle, and Jackson with the base hit.
So now it's Sean Green. You just wonder where the power has gone for two guys in particular. Sean Green, who's batting now, and Luis Gonzalez, who came out of the game. Gonzo went 1 for 2 today, so he's now gone 167 at bats without a home run.
I mean, we're talking about guys that are used to hitting a home run every 15, 16, 17 at bats.
Gonzalez, of course, has had all that serious elbow trouble. I don't know how much that's affected his power. 1 and 2, but we've certainly seen the Mets take advantage of him defensively.
They have. Gonzo, of course, a veteran that's a great veteran, great for younger players, always helping out. He's been taken out of the game in a 13-1 score. Most veterans go up and shower. You know what he does? Sits on that bench. Just keeps watching the game. That's what someone who's a great teammate does.
A run will score as Oliver retires Green for the second out. Jackson to second. It's now 13-2. So Sean Green's 24th run batted in. You know, I don't know Luis Gonzalez much at all. Gary Cohen has worked with him in some postseason radio broadcast series. He says Gonzalez is one of the greatest guys in baseball.
He really is. He came in to see me today. I was talking to Mike Aldretti, the hitting coach for the Diamondbacks. He came in. We had talked for a while, and he's just a pro's pro. He's the kind of guy that you want on your team. Doesn't show anybody up. Plays hard. Plays the game right. And had something happen to him that all of us have had in our dreams 1,000 times, getting the base-winning hit to win the World Series for your team. He got it.
Bottom of the 9th against the Yankees 5 years ago. Off of Mariano Rivera, no less. 0-1. A throwing error by Rivera set that inning up.
It was always the debate about bringing the infield in, because if the infield wasn't in, Jeter would have easily made the catch on that looping kind of broken bat hit.
0-1 to Estrada. And Oliver can reach it. Estrada's a slow runner, so Reyes has time, and that retires the side. Diamondbacks get a run on a hit. They leave 1. 6 in the books. Gonzo's done.
(13-2). Mets leading the Diamondbacks here in Arizona. Chris Cotter along with Howie and Ron. I'm out at the pool area here in Chase Field. I'm being asked by all the folks here whether I'm going to jump in. No, I don't have any of the proper clothing, and I have to get on a plane right after the game. It's the only reason why I won't, though. But if I did, I would be in good hands here with a couple of lifeguards with Chelsea and Amanda. Nice try, but you failed, trying to get me wet. And these two young ladies here do a great job of protecting all the folks here, like people who jump into the pool, even though it's only 3 feet deep. Now, have you ever had to save anybody, Chelsea?
Once, yes.
Yeah, was it an adult or a child?
It was an adult.
Who was literally drowning out here?
Yes, he was.
So I'm with the heroine here, as it is. Guys, take it away. I'm just going to have fun out here and try to stay as dry as I possibly can.
Oh, I'm sure you'll have all kinds of fun out there, Chris. My full-time radio partner, Tom McCarthy, just leaned into our booth. He says, must be 13-2. Cotter's in the pool. And Luis Vizcaíno is on the mound, becoming the 4th pitcher used in this game by the Diamondbacks. And Woodward goes first ball hitting and fouls it off. 0-1. Woodward, Castro, and Millage due up for the Mets here in the 7th.
Well, Vizcaíno pitched a scoreless inning in Thursday's ball game and has been unscored upon in 24 out of his 30 outings.
1-1. Vizcaíno last year pitched for the world champion White Sox. Only got into 1 game and pitched 1 inning in the World Series, but he came over with El Duque. And the deal for Javier Vasquez over the winter. 2-1. I wonder if Julio Franco will get at least an at-bat, if not an inning or two in the field before this game is over. Mets don't have Cliff Floyd available. You're not going to use Paul LaDuca in this game. And he wants to rest Jose Valentin, does Willie. So, realistically, Franco's probably the only other guy that might get in off the bench.
He doesn't want any part of this game. With the 13-2 score, right?
But day off's a day off,
Yeah.
right? Deal's a deal.
2 for LaDuca.
And the 2-2. Got him. Woody going after a slider. Well, this week's Mets WB11 poll question asks, will the Mets have more than 3 players in this year's All-Star game? Log on to WB11.com to vote. And the vote is overwhelmingly in favor of more than 3.
Well, I think they're right. Tommy Glavine, I think it's a lock. Delgado and LaDuca might get in by votes. Beltran has to get in.
David Wright.
David Wright. I wonder if they'll do what some of the old Mets used to do in the 80s. Remember the one All-Star game, Keith, Gary, Strawberry, and Gooden made it. They all wore white shoes with their uniform, which looked horrible, but they thought it was a good move.
The Joe Namath look. 0-2. Might have been the year they played in Houston in '86.
Yes, it was. Cliff just chilling in the Soler chair.
Yeah, right. Soler has abdicated his throne for now. After a marvelous complete game shutout last night. And Castro punched out by home plate. Up Tim Welke, 2 away. So Vizcaíno making some sense of this thing for the Diamondbacks has faced 2 and struck them both out. And now Lasting's Millage. Millage has actually been aboard twice as he was nicked by a pitch by Russ Ortiz in the 2nd inning. What are the Diamondbacks going to do with Russ Ortiz, in whom they have a big investment and have gotten nothing from? In comes Green, and it's a 1-2-3 inning. The first time in this game the Mets have gone in order. Time to stretch here in Phoenix.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sterling Mets and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mets.
Well, fans have been up for the 7th inning stretch. Mets have certainly stretched the lead out once again against the D-backs. And this is what happens when you got a big lead. Can you do it or not? Oh, boy.
That's about the only thing he hasn't been able to do so far this year.
Keep trying. And we're talking about the All-Star game, and LaDuca right now leading the voting among catchers, although if that were a criteria, he might not be in the lead. Hat flipping onto head is not an All-Star event, but Willie Mays, first year with the Mets. Of course, you knew Willie would lead the voting if he were batting 150 in those last few years of his career. It didn't matter.
You got Delgado. You have LaDuca. How about Wagner?
Yeah, Billy Wagner may get in.
Wagner's a perfect guy for those All-Star games. They love taking those closers.
Orlando Hudson takes ball 1 to start the bottom of the 7th. I agree with you. It'd be nice to just expand the rosters and avoid some of the controversy you get now.
You know, just because the All-Star game means something. I mean, home field advantage is a big thing in the World Series. And the only power that the managers have right now is the pitching staff, because they select the pitching staff. So that's why you see not that many starters make the team anymore. They like to go with the closers from a lot of the ball clubs. That way they each go an inning.
Orlando Hudson with a base hit. It used to be the starters, meaning the starting pitchers, would pitch 3 innings automatic.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty much down to 2 for the starters.
Yeah, absolutely. Never more than 2, because pitching is so valuable now in baseball that your one, you want to pitch the guy that's had a great year, deservedly so for the All-Star game, but you don't want to ruin him for his team. So it's almost like throwing on the side in between starts for the All-Star pitcher now.
Damian Easley, the batter. Easley for his second time after pinch hitting. He lined out his first time up. You know, a lot of people have criticized the whole idea of the All-Star game deciding home field advantage. And I like it, and I like it for one reason. None of these people had anything to say when the home field for the World Series was simply decided on a rotation basis. It was never anything that was made to be a big deal to begin with. So if it means that there's even a tad more interest or significance to the All-Star game, why is that a bad thing?
No, I don't think it's a bad thing either. I know 1985 when I played the first All-Star game, you know, you were known in the National League that, as you see Damian Easley hitting into 6-4-3 double play. There was a feeling when you were on that team that you were to play hard. The National League was the best team. As you see, Orlando Hudson might have hurt himself.
Look a little woozy.
Maybe he hit his head or something in the slide.
You noticed Franco all the way in the by the way, in the game at first base now. Yeah, Woody came down on his head. Well, he does appear to be a little shaken. So 2 out, nobody on as Hudson leaves. But you were saying about the All-Star game?
Well, I think it's, you know, I think it's important. You were saying about that you like it. At least they might play a little harder. I'm telling you, when I first was in the All-Star game in '85, it was known that if you were in the National League All-Star game, you played hard because the National League was always considered, and the president of the National League always considered the National League was better than the American League. So you could not lose. And they would remind you, president I think was Chubb Feeney at the time.
Yep.
He would remind you that, hey, the National League, we play the All-Star game, we don't lose the All-Star game. It was simple as that. And then it got to be a real exhibition where, you know, guys would show up and play and then out of there. But now again, some emphasis is put on the game.
Chris Snyder pinch hitting for the pitcher Vizcaíno here as Hudson shakes it off in the dugout. I miss when the All-Star game was more competitive. It seems to be nothing but a pure exhibition now, and with the transient nature of the game, the fact that there are no longer any league presidents and very little identification other than the DH between the leagues, there are no National League lifers, no American League lifers, and no animosity would be way too strong, but any kind of bad feeling between either team, and I miss that.
Well, I think also because of free agency, you know, you used to have guys that you knew, the guys that are in the National League, they're going to be there. It's the Johnny Benches and the Pete Roses and you know, Willie Stargels. Those guys are National League guys. And then the American League guys, you had the Yastrzemskis and those guys. And so when I was a kid watching that game, it was great. It was, you know, I'm from American League town in Boston, so I got to see all these National League players, all the ones that everyone talked about. But now it's not like that anymore because of free agency. Guys change teams, change leagues, and it's hard to differentiate where they're from or any, you know, legionnaires. So it's kind of strange.
Chris Snyder chasing Marrero back for his first chance as a Met, and he makes a nice play. So Eli Marrero, welcome to the Mets. No runs, a hit, nobody left. Got to cover some ground in this ballpark. Crooked numbers again. The story of this series, never mind this game. Mets with a 13-2 lead over the Diamondbacks as the deposed closer Jose Valverde takes over for Arizona. And our Toyota National League scoreboard shows you Washington blanking Philadelphia. Robert Fick went deep. The Cubs over the Reds for the third straight game. Houston clobbering Atlanta. The Cardinals defeat the Brewers. Dennis Baez win for the Dodgers in relief over Colorado. We talked about Dan Uggla before. Impressive rookie infielder for the Marlins. He had a home run in their win over the Padres. And the Pirates beat the Giants. So here's Valverde. And Aaron Oliver hitting for himself, holds the swing, 1-0. Valverde part of a new battery right now for the Diamondbacks as he takes over on the mound. Valverde will bat 7th. Johnny Estrada, the catcher, comes out, and Snyder, who batted for the pitcher, stays in the game, technically in the leadoff spot. Valverde, the 5th pitcher used by the Diamondbacks. Oliver's first plate appearance after Pedro went 1 for 3 with a sacrifice. This lead belongs to Martinez. 2-1. And Reyes, the birthday boy, waiting on deck. Aaron Oliver's dad played with the expansion Kansas City Royals, among other teams. Came to the Royals 1969 when they entered the American League along with the Seattle Pilots. And I'm sure some of our younger viewers are going, the what? Seattle Pilots, long before this young lady was around, or that fella. Played in '69, and then the next spring, just prior to opening day. Now, how nutty is this? They moved to Milwaukee literally days before the regular season opener. Ball 4. Oliver draws a leadoff walk. 9 walks by Arizona pitching. Hey, have you logged on to WB11.com lately? It is the place for weather info, a planning forecast that won't leave you all wet. And, of course, Mr. G's 5-day forecast. You'll find it all 24/7 only at WB11.com. I'd like to go to spring with a team, Ron, that goes bankrupt during spring training, and you find a new home just days before the season starts.
It's craziness.
That's what happened in 1970 to the now Milwaukee Brewers.
I'm trying to think of any Seattle Pilots. Don Money played for the Seattle Pilots, I believe.
Just read ball 4. You'll read about a ton of them.
Yeah.
Jim Bouton was with the Pilots. It's the foundation for his book. Then that year he went to the Houston Astros. We all learned how to sing "Proud to be an Astro." Words that will not be repeated at the present time. Reyes has drawn 3 walks in this game. One and 2 to Jose. Can't go wrong with ice cream indoors or outdoors out here. 106 outside, 78 inside. 1 and 2 to Reyes. Got him. So Valverde's first strikeout, 1 away. Andy Chavez coming up. He delivered the defensive gem of the game, brought to you by the latest offers from Chevrolet.
You know, I keep seeing that play over. Great play by Chavez, but a great job by Castro. Not blocking the plate. That was a short hop with that bulky catcher's glove. That's a nice play.
So honorable mention to Ramon Castro. Chavez fouls it back. 0-1. Met hitters now who have been in the game since the start are up for the 6th time. Ramon certainly had an active afternoon. Also singled in a run. And then more enjoyably to those in the dugout, had to go first to home on a triple by Millage. 1 ball and 1 strike. What was it, Ron? Is in L.A., I guess, when Manny Acta, who was mic'd up for us that night, was joking around about how he didn't know if Julio Franco would make it going first to home. And he had to watch Ramon Castro in the same exercise this afternoon.
Well, Manny Acta and Julio Franco, both Spanish speaking, of course. Manny had to go to English to make sure that he really understood. Go harder, Julio.
Taking no chances.
Manny was saying, he didn't really slide into home. He kind of just fell down. But he was safe.
That was in the first inning of the game on Wednesday night. So 2-1 to Indy. Ball 3. 9 Mets have already walked in this game. Conversely, Met pitchers Martinez and Oliver have walked only 1 each. Mets have out hit the Diamondbacks 13-7 and lead 13-2. Ball 4. So that makes 10.
Well, pitching coach Ryan Price is coming out here. Valverde's mechanics are all over the place. Now you know you hate the. Everyone always talks about mechanics. Well, when they're really this blaring, he's just flying open with that front shoulder and not pushing off of that back foot. And that just, when you do that, the ball's just going to be high in the strike zone.
Well, now here's a look at today's pitcher's high speed, brought to you by Verizon Online DSL, now at a great low price. These are the pitchers in the game now, the relievers.
I remember in 1993 I was in Hohokam Park in Arizona. It's close to here in Mesa, Arizona. That was the first time they were coming out with a computer that kind of detailed how you threw, how fast you threw, how much your ball broke in the strike zone. And I remember Dave Henderson was on that A's team, and he goes, Ronnie, you got to get rid of that computer, because if that computer starts tagging you now, you're going to get released here in about a month. At that time, not throwing very hard.
Marrero takes the pitch off the glove of Snyder, but a strike, and it's 0-2. Boy, think about how Dave Henderson would be canonized in Boston had the Red Sox held the lead against you guys in the bottom of the 10th inning of Game 6 of the World Series.
Well, think about it. He had that game-winning hit against the California Angels at the time, California Angels, in division play. So, I mean, that was just amazing.
It's when the Angels were 1 strike away from the pennant. Game 5 of the '86 LCS in the American League. There would have been a statue of Dave Henderson outside Fenway Park by now.
That's when Gene Mauch took out Mike Witt, and he replaced him. I can't remember the left-hander for the California Angels. Had him come in to face Rich Gedman. Gary something.
Oh, I know who you mean.
You know
L with an L.
Yeah, Gary with an L. But anyways, he came in, hits Gedman, and then he had to replace him with their stopper,
Donnie Moore.
Donnie Moore.
Was it Lucas? Gary Lucas?
Gary Lucas, his name. That away. Thanks, Howie.
Marrero gets into the act, and he finds the alley. So around third to score is Oliver. Chavez following right behind him, and it is 15-2 New York. Marrero's first Met hit delivers a couple of runs. And Valverde cannot get through an inning unscathed against the Mets or anybody else lately.
Well, fastball away. Good, nice piece of hitting by Marrero. Just goes with it. Finds a gap. 2 more runs scoring Chavez. 4th run scored today for Andy Chavez.
Chavez telling El Duque how it's done. Julio Franco's first time up today. 0-1 to Julio. 15 runs on 14 hits. Mets have now scored 37 runs in the 4 games. Last year in the 4-game sweep here, they scored 39. Diamondbacks have scored 9 runs this weekend. They scored 7 last year. That is back-to-back wallopings against one ball club. I can't ever remember, at least as far as the Mets are concerned.
What is that now? That's 9 straight here with this win. 8 straight in the 2 series in the last game before that. This is a game that a manager can have a good time too. Doesn't happen that often.
Still 1-2 to Franco. Mets came into this game 6th in the National League in runs scored. That might head north too. Only other game going on right now in the major leagues at 7:35 Eastern time. Come on, this one's not over yet. And Franco up the middle. Maniacta holds Marrero at third. Mentioning the only American League game going on right now is that game in Boston, which is the second of a doubleheader. The Yankees losing again. Yankees now have lost 4 in a row after the series with the Red Sox. Yankees swept by the Oakland A's. And how about Detroit? Now let's talk about Jimmy Leland's Tigers for a minute here, because they lead the American League Central. It's their 40th win of the year. They're the first team in the big leagues to get to 40 wins in Jim Leland's first season as manager. And here's Valentine, by the way, pinch hitting. Sorry, Ron.
Now, a lot of people thought that Jim Leland was done, that he'd lost the fire to manage again. Wrong. Leland, one of the best managers of all time. Just knows how to manage within the game, and he knows how to manage people. Always has.
Valentine hitting for David Wright. 0-2. So David will leave with 1 for 5, an RBI double. Marrero at third and Franco at first. One and two. Let's go to Chris Cotter.
Hey guys, just a real quick note on Julio Franco. He's had such a great season. That was his 10th pinch hit of the year. That leads the major leagues, and that's unbelievable when you talk about his role on this club.
So it'll be a 1-2 to Valentine. Foul back underneath us. You're talking about Jimmy Leland. You guys could see that from a little bit of a distance in the late 80s once he took over the Pirates, how quickly they looked like a team again after going through some real rough years where they looked almost directionless. And the left fielder Green is the guy who makes the play, but not without some angst.
Well, everything seems to be dropping in for the Mets except this, but luckily easily was able to avoid Green.
So now it's Woodward with 2 out. One ball, no strikes.
Yeah, Leland did a great job with those Pittsburgh teams. The addition of Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla, pitching Doug Drabek, Sid Bream, almost like a captain of that team at first base.
Speaking of Doug Drabek, Billy Wagner loves him. When Billy came up with Houston, Drabek was still in the starting rotation for the Astros, and Billy had a chance to get into a game in the 8th inning, got out of trouble. This was a Drabek game. Then in the 9th inning gave up 2 home runs and wound up losing the game. Drabek came to him right after that game, said, tomorrow I want you on the mound to save the game. Next time I'm on the mound, I want you there to save the game. Billy said you can't believe what that did to a nervous kid's confidence. 2-2 to Woodward.
Doug Drabek was a fine pitcher and a fine leader. Just saw recently his son was drafted in the 1st round, a pitcher from Houston, Texas. Doug now resides in the Woodlands part of Houston.
2-2 to Woodward. And a foul ball.
I always remember that confrontation. You remember that, Howie, went the confrontation between Jim Leland and Barry Bonds in spring training over a photographer trying to take Barry's picture, and never backed down, did he, Jim Leland? He went right after Barry Bonds.
And all these years later, the image rings clearer than ever. Leland's in charge and Bonds is surly. Nothing's changed. And give Dave Dombrowski in Detroit a lot of credit too, because this is the second franchise now he's turned completely around. He rebuilt the Marlins after the big sale, after they won their first championship, and eventually a lot of those kids that won the second one were brought there by Dombrowski. Woodward down on strikes, and that retires the side. But Mets tack a couple more on against the struggling Valverde. Middle of the 8th. 15-2 New York. This guy has walked through the entire desert this afternoon and pulled that poor mule with him. And yet he doesn't look any worse for wear. And the guy doesn't look bad either.
As long as this game's lasted, he just made it into Tucson. Walked all the way from Phoenix to Tucson.
Well, it's Pedro Feliciano's turn as he'll pick up for Darren Oliver as we enter the bottom half of the 8th inning. Mets have made a couple of other changes we'll tell you about in a second as Jeff Devannon takes outside for ball 1. Jose Valentin, pinch hit for right, stays in the game at second, and Chris Woodward moves to third. And Devannon's got himself a hit, his first of the afternoon. Darren Oliver pitched 2 innings in relief of Pedro Martinez. Gave up 2 hits and a run. Oliver walked 1, did not strike a batter out. So now it's Adam Green. Or Andy Green, pardon me. Fastball by Pedro Feliciano, 1-0 or 0-1. It's getting, yeah, it's 3 hours and 5 minutes and 17 runs old.
Whatever, you're watching.
Yeah. Met fans are certainly enjoying themselves here. They've been here all weekend. They've really had a good time. Second plate appearance for Green. He walked as a pinch hitter and stayed in last time. How tough must this be now? I was a Philly fan here. Never mind that. Mets will see plenty of the Phillies this week, but watch where this ball's coming out of. Watch what this roof does in terms of the shadows and where a pitcher is finding the hitter here. Green found that one, and so does Marrero. Nice play. But these shadows are positioned at a very weird angle. Well, so 1 minute the pitcher might be in it, the next minute the hitter, and that could change.
Well, they just figured by now the game would be over, but it's not with all these runs scored. But yeah, it's got to be difficult. It wasn't difficult for Jeff Devannon, who led off with a base hit, but it's got to be difficult for the hitters.
Chad Tracy 0 for 3. Roof closed because it's a day game and it was over 100 degrees. That's why. 106 degrees. Go get them. Inside to Tracy, 1-0. It's interesting. This team, the Diamondbacks, played their first game in the National League in 1998. The expansion franchise was awarded a couple of years prior, and before they ever played their first game, they were among the top handful of largest selling teams in terms of merchandise and stuff that was marketed before they ever got onto the field. It's great work by an aggressive front office.
Yeah.
Certainly not an expansion team in the same vein as those who came into existence in the 1960s and 70s, because They had the opportunity to go out and buy the best talent they could and bring it right to the major leagues. Big league free agent talent. So Series C 2001, they're the world champions in their 4th year. But in their 2nd year, they won the National League West. Tracy down on strikes, 2 away. So it's not the same as the Mets and the Kansas City Royals, who really
had to pick from a refugee of players left open for the draft.
Yeah, and didn't have the ability to go out and sign marquee talent right away. Free agency was not in vogue then. Mets won the World Championship in their 8th year of existence. Kansas City Royals won their first division title in their 8th year of existence. They did it the old-fashioned way with hard work. That's to take nothing away from the Diamondbacks, who simply were playing under different rules. Just think about 2001. If you're moping today, think about happier times. Two and one to Jackson.
You know, Howie, it'd be interesting to see what the Kansas City Royals try to do in the next couple of years. Just hired a new GM from Atlanta, and they are about as low as you can get right now. Have a chance. They're on their way to maybe breaking the 1962 Mets record, 120 losses.
We can't let that happen, though.
No,
the Tigers threatened to do that a couple of years ago, and it's just too much a part of this team's heritage.
Mets record.
Don't want to lose that. I wonder if Met fans feel the same way.
I bet you they do. I bet you they do. That's part of, you know, what made 1969 so great was 1962.
You got it. So it'll be a 2-2 pitch to Jackson. And the breaking ball missed. Full count. So Devannon will have an automatic go against Feliciano. Not that Julio Franco cares. He's been playing behind him anyway with a 15-2 lead. And the breaking ball ripped. Now let's see. The Kansas City Royals have a .267 winning percentage. The Mets were .250 when they won 40 and lost 120 in 1962.
Kansas City's hot. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games.
And that's unacceptable for them. It's just what we want. Just stay a little above 250 and everybody will be happy. So again, it'll be a payoff pitch to Jackson. And again, a foul ball.
You know, we kid, but boy, I hate to see Buddy Belt go through that. My first spring training in 1982 in Pompano Beach, Florida. My locker was right next to Buddy Bell, and I was like, oh my God, sitting next to this big star. Sat down, called over the clubhouse attendant. 5 minutes later, my stuff was put back in my bag, and I had to go to the locker next to the washer and dryer. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
Wrong neighborhood.
Yep.
Payoff pitch to Jackson. Did he go around? No. At 15-2, he did not go around. Kerwin Danley must not have a flight out. And there is one of the more colorful characters in the history of baseball, much less baseball broadcasting. Joe Garagiola, who still does some occasional work on Diamondbacks TV. His son Joe Jr. was the original general manager of the Diamondbacks, who just left their organization and works at the Major League Baseball executive office level now. And Sean Green, the batter. No balls and 1 strike. Oh, and 2 to Green. Now, you know, you look in one end of it and then you see the stuff that's farther away. You turn them around the other way, it doesn't work. Appear to be having a lens malfunction. You can almost see to LA from here, though. Now, it's an exaggeration, but it's just not that far. Did he go around? No. Was it too late for the umpires to get out on any flight?
No, they're just not paying attention.
It's 15-2.
This is like, hey, Jim, did he go? Did he go? What? Did he go? No.
Well, it's been a long game, but not that long.
Got his vote for Pedro shirt on.
He went around there. And Reyes goes the short way, side retired. A hit, a walk, and 2 left. We have reached the 9th inning in the desert. No water, but plenty of runs. As any New Yorker would know, that is Bell Rock, somewhere out here. Is that Sedona, huh?
Beautiful.
It's easy for us to act like we know this place, but it's too hot out there. Like it better by the pool. But Sedona's very popular vacation site as you look at the Jeep game summary. All kinds of hitting by the Mets. They started early. Beltran, Delgado, Martinez all out of the game now, but not without having left an imprint. Pedro Feliciano. Got to look and see if he's ever had an at-bat. Chris Cotter is standing by. Chris?
I tell you what, you want to put a smile on a reliever's face? Have your manager at the top step of the dugout ask him if he wants to hit when he comes off the mound. That's exactly what happened with Feliciano. Big smile ear to ear, and he went over and started trying out everybody's bats, looking for batting gloves. He's excited about it.
Well, he is 0 for 3 in his big league career. So he's going to need a little help picking out a winner there.
Well, he's very smart going with Andy Chavez's bat. It's hot. 2 hits today for Andy. 4 runs scored.
So Jorge Julio, the former Met, will face Ramon Castro here. Kind of figured Julio hasn't been in for a while, would get an inning today. He's their new closer. He's pitched well since coming here from the Mets.
You know, he's only given up 1 run on 2 hits over his first 7 appearances. After coming over, like you said, Howie, retiring 21 of the 25 batters he's faced. So very successful for the D-backs.
So Heath Bell up in the Mets pen. 0-2 to Castro. Ramon 1 out of 3 with a couple of walks. Out goes Hudson. In comes Green. It's Sean Green's ball. 1 out. So here comes Millage. All right, his left-hand batter. He's got the flap on the right side. That's good.
Got 2 batting gloves. Knows how to put the donut on. Looks like a nice swing too, but we'll see when he gets in the box off Julio.
2-0 to Millage. Is he going to go up there hacking, or is he going to look to work the count?
Guys are all over you if you don't go up there swinging. If you start taking pitches, they will just rib you endlessly.
Millage rips one off the screen there. 2-1. Lastings had a 2-run triple in the 5th inning when the Mets really broke it open, although it was pretty much ajar anyway. It's 7-0 before then. Mets scored 6 runs in that 5th. Three-one pitch. And a full count.
These guys are going to be tired when they get on the plane tonight, Howie. They started as a baseball game, became a track meet here in Arizona. Fastball right by Millage by Julio.
So the payoff pitch. And Millage down on the slider. Good pitch by Julio to freeze Millage for the 2nd out. And now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing as a hitter, Pedro Feliciano, his 5th major league at bat.
Did that part right. See him digging in.
Swinging right. Uh-oh. Is that a fine?
That's 1 step closer to having the guys all over you. A little tardy, as they say, Howie.
Did he look better taking or swinging?
Taking, I believe.
Julio throw it up there in the 90s. And that retires the side on 3 pitches. 2 strikeouts for Julio. Mets go in order. And the Diamondbacks need 13 to tie, which means they're feeling about as dry as the desert. And the Mets 3 outs from a sweep. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Jeep. Check out the #1 selling brand of SUVs in the Northeast. By Verizon Online DSL, now at a great low price. By Nissan and your Nissan dealers. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. By Toyota, a smart way to keep moving forward. And by Air Canada. Well, he's a hitter now, you know, so he doesn't have to go out and pitch the 9th inning. We'll just talk about the AB. Rick Peterson was totally disinterested. So Heath Bell gets the 9th. And batting for the Diamondbacks is Tony Clark, who hits for Julio. So Heath Bell just getting an inning's work here. And one of the byproducts of this series, apart from the eventual sweep, is that the Mets are going to have a very well-rested back end of that bullpen going into Philadelphia. Factor in the day off tomorrow. Boy, Willie's pen is going to be in great shape for that series. Usually there are a lot of runs scored in that series. Met fans saw that very strange stance by Tony Clark a couple of years ago.
It's like David Letterman's stupid human tricks, right? Who can do that?
That hurts to look at, you know. Oh, man.
Push me, pull you.
2-2. Mets will petition the National League to get him an extra trip or 2 to Arizona in ensuing seasons. Just study that for a minute.
That's some scary numbers, man.
One away. Mets in this series have outscored the Diamondbacks 37-9. Now Orlando Hudson. I remember one game in Philly in '85, Ron. You guys got walloped 26-7. But you were able to shake that off, go out and win the next game. For the Diamondbacks, this game is symptomatic of what plagued them not only this series, but seems to be enveloping this entire team right now.
I'll never forget that game in Philadelphia because Tom Gorman, a lefty, was going to have a spot start. So before the game, he was telling us about him as a hitter at Gonzaga University, that he held some of the records for doubles by a left-handed hitter. He was taping up his bat all before the game, getting ready for his at-bat. Didn't make it out of the first inning. 2/3 of an inning, 10 hits, 10 runs.
Never got an AB.
Bad karma, brother. Shouldn't have went there.
I remember Calvin Schiraldi followed, and he didn't do much better.
Schiraldi gave up 10 runs too as Heath Bell strikes out another batter. 2 outs for the Mets.
And Damian Easley, the last hope for the Diamondbacks.
Some interesting guys pitching that game. Tom Gorman, Calvin Schiraldi, who would end up going to Boston, Joe Sambito, who had been the stopper for Houston, Doug Sisk, big fan favorite for the Mets.
Yeah.
Poor Doug.
1-0 to Easley. Yeah, poor Doug Sisk really did get vilified. It all started with that doubleheader against the Cubs in '84. Well, at least Davey rested Orozco and McDowell that game.
Yeah.
2-0 to Easley. And the brooms are out. And in one more out, the sweep will be clean. This should do it. Reyes. And that's it. Put this in the books. The Mets have come into Arizona and swept 4 games, outscoring them 37-9 1 year after a 4-game sweep, during which they outscored them 39-7. They ought to enjoy the cross-country trip tonight. In the bottom of the 9th, Heath Bell gets the Diamondbacks in order. Diamondbacks white flag is up, and the Mets with a 15-2 win here in Phoenix. And oh, by the way, Pedro Martinez has his first win since late April. 15-2. We'll have a wrap up next. Here's your score from Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. The Mets 15, the Diamondbacks 2, as the Mets emphatically sweep a 4-game series from the Diamondbacks. Now, our next telecast on the WB11 will be on Saturday when the Baltimore Orioles are in town to face the Mets. Stay tuned now for Charmed, which is already in progress. So the Brooms were out early and the Mets finished the job, Ron.
But I think the really good sign is Pedro got a win. And secondly, that the offense really got going again. And that's a good sign going into that bandbox in Philly.
And so for Ron Darling, Chris Cotter, Gary Cohen, and our entire WB11 crew, I'm Howie Rose. Thanks for joining us. Mets win it 15-2. Now Charmed already in progress.